Hello, friends. This is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, March 7th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. Thomas from Alpha Mega Energy won't be joining us, as he told me that he has to go to a prayer meeting, a Christian prayer meeting, and I could totally respect that. Because it's actually Saturday over there where he's at in Cambodia, and it said he has it every 2 weeks, and so he didn't schedule it out, so he's not going to be joining us. And I told him that's all well and good. Just make sure you go ahead and worship the aardvark land over there, and it'll be all forgiven. So it's just me today for your Weaponized News viewing pleasure. What do we got today? We got quite a bit. Seems to be slowing down a little bit, at least with the executive orders and the DOGE. DOGE is turning out to be a flop, honestly. I'm all for I'm for abolish the entire federal government. I'm way beyond DOGE, right? But I guess we take what we can get in a practical world. And they seem to be slowing down, and a lot of overstating and hyping of what all they're doing, because we're not really saving that much money, honestly. We got daylight savings this Sunday or over the weekend, however it is. I looked it up. So the government's stealing time from us. They steal our money, our time, our effort, our soul, if you let them. We got that to go over. We have, these reports, AI. So it's good. Downsize government, get rid of the corrupt bureaucracy. But then what is it replaced with? Scientific dictatorship, technocracy, AI. Got a couple reports about that. Military wants to put AI in charge of the nuclear arsenal. That sounds safe and effective. When that movie War Games, haven't we already seen this movie? We keep seeing replays of 80s sci-fi movies now playing out in real life here. And it's very dystopic, to say the least. We got that to cover. Other AI in government news. What are they doing? The State Department to use AI to revoke visas for foreign students. So it does indeed look like we're trading out one type of corruption for another here fast. It's approaching fast. So somebody in the government finally got in trouble. We're going to go over that. Because I've been asking the question, well, you guys keep exposing all this corruption everywhere. Fraud, waste, and abuse. Outright corruption, conspiracy. And so where's the indictments? When somebody in the government going to get in trouble? We'll go over that. Some people have, not nearly enough. Like literally the entire government should turn themselves in. But we will never get there, obviously. In my utopian dream for the future. We got, what else do we got? A lot of economic news today. I mean, of course, we got the Stand Up for Science rally. And it's truly despicable. I'll go over that and try to skirt the censors. We got public health news to report, trying to skirt the censors and talk about it in a coherent manner. Yeah, quite a bit of economic news today. We have geopolitical news. The old impeached president of South Korea has been released from prison as we follow that drama. And so thankfully he's out and continues his corruption and calls for martial law over there in South Korea. We wouldn't have it any other way, right? Other geopolitical news, the Romanian presidential candidate George Scone, I guess it's George Scone. I don't know how you pronounce it, but anyway, this guy's back running for president again after they arrested him, and so they should probably arrest him again. That's probably what will happen. We got some more saber rattling going on back and forth again between U.S., Russia, Ukraine. None of our business, but apparently it is our business. So let's wind that down and have some peace. We got a lot of aardvark news, aardvark land, as we reported from day one of the ceasefire. Yeah, they're going to go ahead and return to genociding, or as they call it, return to Gaza fighting. All that and a whole lot more on this Friday edition of Weaponized News for You. The documentary to close us out I thought was appropriate for today. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. We got that documentary going over the Operations Research Technical Manual, TWSW7905.1 from stopthecrime.net. And so that's going to wrap up the tying it all together here with our scientific dictatorship technocracy, or spelled backwards for you internet riddlers, TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Doesn't it all tie together nicely? I think it does. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, on this day in history. By the way, happy Alexander Graham Bell Day. It is Alexander Graham Bell Day. I'm going to go through his inventions. So on this day of March 7th, going back to 1573, Turkey and Venice. We've been covering Venice, how they've slid in there with their mindset policies to basically be the shadow deep state behind the Anglo-American establishment. So, but on this day in 1573, Turkey and Venice sign a peace treaty. In 1774, punishment for the Boston Tea Party by King George III charges colonists in Boston with attempting to injure British commerce. I know, horrific crime. I can't read what I wrote here. Paving the way for the closing of the port to punish colonists for the Boston Tea Party. So there you go. No more commerce for you. In 1799, the Royal Institution of Great Britain was founded. In 1847, U.S. General Scott occupies Veracruz, Mexico. In 1876, Alexander Graham Bell patents the telephone, and they've been wiretapping us ever since. In 1911, the United States sends 20,000 troops to the Mexican border. In 1925, American Negro Congress organizes. In 1936, Hitler breaks the Treaty of Versailles by sending ground troops into the demilitarized Rhineland. I thought this was a particularly humanitarian act by the United States government. In 1946, Bikini Atoll Island was forced to evacuate. They essentially ethnic cleanse these people, the islanders there. I guess it's better than being nuked. They're forced to evacuate by the U.S. government to make way for a nuclear testing site. So how would you feel if here comes the U.S. government and says either leave or you're being nuked? I guess at least they gave them the opportunity to evacuate. And then they summarily went on and nuked the hell out of Bikini Atoll. Very good use of an island there. In 1968, the BBC broadcast the news for the first time in color TV. In 1984, CIA employees attack San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua. Can we even report on this? I don't know. It's official history, but you know how the censors are on the interwebs here. In 2022, global death toll from the bats passes 6 million, according to Johns Hopkins, with 57% of the global population fully miracled up, according to Johns Hopkins. And remember their valuable death toll counter in the top of all your news broadcasts during the medical intervention period. Who could ever forget? Pure terrorism from the public health establishment against the people. And that's why we stand up for science. In 2024, Sweden officially, just last year, on this day, Sweden officially joins NATO as the 32nd member, abandoning its 200-year policy of neutrality. So, yeah, I don't like daylight savings. The government's always stealing everything we have, literally our time. So as a segue to daylight savings, we're going to play this song, Daylight Savings. And then we'll come back with the news and a breakdown of daylight savings. Messes everybody up, right? So what the hell's up with daylight savings time? When is daylight savings time this year, 2025? It starts March 9th, which is what? Sunday. March 9th, Sunday, right? Yeah, Sunday. And on March 9th, Sunday, at 2 a.m. local time, clocks, quote, spring forward 1 hour from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. So the government's literally stealing an hour of our life. These dates follow the standard U.S. schedule where DST, Daylight Savings Time, begins on the second Sunday of March and ends on the first Sunday of November. Note that not all areas in the U.S. observe Daylight Savings Time. Hawaii and Arizona skip it. Smart. So what is daylight savings time? Daylight savings time is a practice where clocks are adjusted typically by moving them forward 1 hour in the spring and back 1 hour in the fall to make better use of daylight during longer days of summer. The idea is to shift an hour of daylight from the morning to the evening, giving people more usable daylight after work or school hours. Why it exists? It was originally proposed to save energy, like reducing the need for artificial lighting and to encourage outdoor activity. The concept is often credited to Benjamin Franklin. Humorously, in 1784, and was more formally implemented during World War I by Germany and other countries to conserve fuel. And so who uses it now? Not everyone. Most of North America and Europe use some form of daylight savings time, but many countries near the equator, where daylight doesn't vary much, don't. Even within countries, some regions opt out. I'm calling for an opt out. Done with daylight savings. Back to, kind of jumped ahead. Sorry about that. But back to Alexander Graham Bell Day. So what did Alexander Graham Bell do? He invented the telephone on this day in 1876. His most famous invention. He invented the photophone in 1880. The graphophone improvement of the phonograph in, I mean, we don't have a year for that one, so I guess it's just improvements of it. The metal detector in 1881, hydrofoil in the early 1900s, aeronautical inventions. He had, what does it say here? Bell explored flight through tetrahedral kites, which used a strong, lightweight structure. His work contributed to early aviation experiments, including the silver dart flown by the Aerial Experiment Association he helped found in 1907. The audio meter was invented by Alexander Graham Bell, and twisted pair electrical wiring, some of his most famous inventions on Alexander Graham Bell Day. Okay, I wanted to get that out of the way. On to technocracy, scientific dictatorship. We love it. We want to be controlled by Skynet. We want to launch autonomous drones. Mysterious naval vessel spotted in Washington State is a new DARPA drone ship, we're being told here. Let's put that on the screen. So allegedly, USX-1 Defiant is meant to operate with no humans aboard for long periods, with missile-carrying variants eyed for future production. And so I feel very safe out there with an autonomous drone roaming the seas armed with missiles. And here is said drone, allegedly. It's covered up there. I think, do we have a picture of it where it says, yeah, there we go, Defiant. I think this is actually a CGI. Oh, yeah. A previously released rendering. So, yeah, don't you feel more safe with this lurking in the oceans? Keeping us safe, it would never turn on humans, never turn on Americans. And then tying into that, how the military wants AI to help control America's nuclear arsenal. What? Didn't we see that movie, War Games, in the 80s? Science fiction has warned us about meddling AI in nuclear command and control, but Pentagon leadership sees it as a critical tool for future deterrence. And we can trust the Pentagon, right? Because they can account for all their money. They're running a tight ship there. Nothing gets by the Pentagon, right? Right. And so now, dated unclassified graphic shows the workflow of it all here. So yeah, I don't know what could possibly go wrong. Leading all these nuclear bomb carrying planes, the intercontinental missile. So here's another graphic about how it could work. Command and control at the Pentagon, allegedly. Probably not, but they tell us it's there anyway. It's in some bunker in an undisclosed location, I'm sure. But allegedly, they send the commands, it goes to the satellites, and then it sends the death machines here to go keep us safe and spread liberty and freedom. Bombing the hell out of everybody. They see, I didn't even scroll to the bottom of this, but they've seen that movie too, apparently. War Games, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Yeah. Turns out those were documentaries about the future, right? They're building it in real time, and a large majority is cheering it on. XAI's expansion in Memphis. Elon Musk's AI company, XAI, has expanded its operations in Memphis, Tennessee by acquiring 1 million square foot property in southwest Memphis. This expansion is part of the Colossus supercomputer project, aiming to integrate at least 1 million GPUs. The project includes significant sustainability efforts, such as an $80 million water recycling plant. However, the expansion has raised local concerns about potential impacts on the electric grid and air quality. In response, XAI has offered discounted Tesla batteries to local utilities to mitigate these concerns. Isn't that good of them? The same batteries that if they get too hot, they literally turn into a raging inferno. Those same batteries. This move not only boosts XAI's data center capabilities, but also underscores its commitment to innovation and environmental responsibility in the region. Oh my gosh. It would be funny if it wasn't real, if they weren't really doing, they're really doing this, man. They're building Skynet right in our face, but it's for the environment and innovation. So what the hell? We need to cheer it on. Skynet's good. We're bad. More Skynet here. Starlink Wi-Fi now on United Airlines. United Airlines has initiated the installation of SpaceX's Starlink satellite internet on its aircraft, starting with regional jets. Who cares if you're building the Skynet control grid for the end of humanity, as long as you have a solid Wi-Fi connection, right? Am I right? That's right. This upgrade aims to provide passengers with free high-speed Wi-Fi up to 250 millibytes per second. Well, yeah, you got to stream your Into the World movies as the world ends. Accessible through the airline's Mile Plus plan. The installation, which takes up to 8 hours per plane, is much faster than traditional systems. By the end of 2025, United plans to equip over 1,000 planes with this technology, including all types in its fleet. This development is viewed as a huge development for enhancement of in-flight internet connectivity. God forbid we go a minute without the internet, right? Oh, but look, the bad side of Skynet, I don't know. We're already shadow banned, throttled on X anyway, and this is all on X, so we might as well report on it. Tesla crash sparks debate over autonomous driving safety. A recent incident involving a Tesla vehicle resulted in a collision where a family of 3, including a young child, sustained minor injuries. Here's the collision. Here's the Tesla. And then here's video of it. So that's fine. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Tesla's autonomous features played a role in both the collision and the safety of the occupants, you see. It's being reported here. So, yeah, it's all good. They're bad for being humans. Okay, moving on to, this guy does have a lot of wisecracks. Senator Kennedy, even though I don't trust him, does have the good sound bites and the good wisecracks. Let's hear from Senator Kennedy as we continue on with the government corruption theme of our time now, all tying into the Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. Yes, the old system's corrupt. The public cries for the solution. It's already been engineered here by Palantir Skynet, XAI, and so on and so on. Scientific dictatorship, technocracy. It's waiting for you. But let's play and expose some more corruption. Maybe someone someday will get in trouble. Not holding my breath, but here we go.
Most of the publicity has been on the spending cuts. And look, I'm all for them. I think Elon Musk is a rock star. The tofu crowd is mad, but you know, when you trim fat, pigs squeal. That's just the way the world works. That's the law of nature.
It's a good line. When you trim fat, pigs squeal. He has good lines for sure. Good rhetoric. Can't trust him, but this guy, I don't know what do we make of this guy. Old Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee has publicly stated he is prepared to risk his position to reveal what he believes is the true reason behind government opposition to Elon Musk's involvement with DOGE. He suggests following a paper trail might uncover why there is pushback from officials on both sides of Congress. I don't know. Why do you think? Do we have video? I thought we had video of him. Let's see. And we do have video. Here he is. Let's listen to this video about it. And then we'll get into legislation he's introducing. He's proposing that Congress shouldn't be allowed to stock trade. Ban for stock trading for Congress's families. Horrific. How else could they become millionaires being public, humble civil servants unless they're allowed to insider stock trade? This guy might be in trouble here. Let's watch this clip.
We wanted to ask you about Elon Musk's message in there. What did he talk to you guys about? What was sort of the main message?
Well, we talked about specifics of areas that I don't want to discuss the specific parts of it, but it's very encouraging of the things that he's disclosing and where he's headed with this, because they haven't even really cracked the nut. You've got education in the Pentagon that are out there, and you know what time this thing started?
Was there any sort of conversation or pushback, from folks who are
they're going to push back because you've got congressmen on both sides of the aisle that if they follow that paper trail, it's going to come back to them. They got their wife and or girlfriend that works for some agency, quasi-agency or some business, and I'll probably get primary for saying that, but that's the truth, and we all know it. And this town's crooked as a dog's leg. Somebody's going to straighten it out. Looks like it's going to be Elon Musk.
Did he give you guys his phone number like he did for the senators?
You'll have to ask Marjorie.
And what about using the rescission?
I tell you, dude, you're going to say, who you call Elon? And I'm saying, I'm going to
I'm not going to ask you to call Elon. Did he give you the number?
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, did he?
No, I'm going on to your question.
What do you think about using the rescission package process, rescissions, to codify some of this?
I think that's a avenue to take. I would like to do every dadgum one on there, but we don't have the guts to do it. So
You think it'll really happen?
I think it will eventually. I think America's going to demand it after that show the Democrats put on last night.
And so how do you get in touch with Mr. Musk if lawmakers do have any concerns about
Call him on the phone. Send up the bat signal.
Did he say anything to some of the concerns needs to slow down, take a little bit more of a cautious?
No, I mean, I encouraged him to go as fast as possible because we're going to lose our guts. 100, 150 days, this bunch is going to... Oh, man, that's cutting into my...
Anything about the recent VA cuts come up?
No, other than we primarily discussed, we broke down some of the aspects of the people that are 100, 150 years old, that are, and the people overseas that are out of the country that are drawing a check, and how much that is, and just how substantial that is.
But then the 80,000 VA cuts that were made known today.
Well, they're gonna, but I believe that they'll equal those out with the waste, abuse, and fraud. And when people start going back to work, I think that's going to take care of some of that. And the ones that choose not to, that'll come off that side of the ledger.
Thank you. Any talking about cop
Is that what you do? You doing something different?
I've curled my hair. Thank you.
I got girls. I noticed that stuff. And I found out who I think Lily Pulitzer was pretty quick.
Was there any conversation in there about codifying the DOGE cuts? And about, did anyone say that they
I don't know
wanted
about
it?
in there, but when we were sure, well, that's what everybody talks
Did anyone
about.
say that they wanted that in the CR, though, even though Johnson's already said it's off the
You're
table?
talking about meeting with the president today or with Elon?
Elon.
Well, he doesn't. He's not going to make a decision on legislative type things. That's going to be up to us. Again, it goes back to that guts thing that we lack.
But did any
He said this town's crooked as a dog's leg. Goes back to the guts thing that we lack. They don't have the political will. They're too tied up in corruption to make any cuts. The continuing resolution to keep the government funded, as Johnson's told us, is going to fund all of this corruption. Again, it's on Congress. Truly criminal in our face. And so he may not last long there, as he's introduced legislation. This is, again, Representative out of Tennessee, Tim Burchett, has introduced legislation H.R. 1908, aiming at prohibiting members of Congress, along with their spouses and dependent children, from trading or owning individual stocks. The legislation seeks to address potential conflicts of interest by mandating divestiture of stocks within 180 days. This move comes amidst widespread public support, with over 80% of voters across party lines favoring such a ban. Well, it used to be illegal, and then Nancy Pelosi made it legal, and then it's now become a multi-millionaire out of the whole deal. And so, yeah, they're allowed to front run and on inside information and become extremely wealthy. And I'm sure that doesn't ever tell them which way to vote either, whether they have interest in whatever company that laws and policies they're passing and enacting are going to benefit said company, right? I mean, that would never happen. This is quite a story. This is 2 days old, but I thought it was worth reporting. $375 billion EPA slush fund handed to John Podesta. Everybody remember John Podesta? The Podesta emails from the WikiLeaks? Gave billions to charities founded only months earlier. So literally stealing from us, from the taxpayers. How the hell is John Podesta not in prison? We don't have a picture of. There he is. How's this guy not in prison for all the crimes in his emails from the WikiLeaks? That's enough to prove conspiracy, money laundering, all the other weird stuff. This guy right here, what a criminal. Insane. It's literally insane that this guy's still walking around free and continuing to steal from us for the planet, for the EPA, saving the environment. It's truly incredible. Yeah, I seen that conspiracy. I don't know if the Lincoln Park guy was his son or not. They do look very similar. Maybe he was killed in some type of ritualistic sacrifice. I don't know. But they do look very similar. I've seen that. But this guy's still walking around, John Podesta. Have you guys seen that missing girl that came? I forget her name, but the missing girl when him and his brother just happened to be in town in Portugal. what a coincidence. And like, and they did like the, police sketch, and it happens to just look exactly like him and his brother about who the suspects are, but no one gets in trouble. Isn't that interesting? All alleged, of course, as they're good environmentalists, of course. But just go read the WikiLeaks email. Never been refuted. It's 100%. 100%. All the emails that Podesta emails when he was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Go read those emails again, and just crime after crime after crime. Crimes against children, crimes against the taxpayer, crimes against the country, and it just goes on and on and on. And he's allowed to still be around and steal billions more. Yeah. So where's MAGA DOJ going after Podesta here? That's easy pickings right there. Easy. That's low-hanging fruit of arresting government people for corruption. I don't know. He's a great humanitarian, apparently. Above reproach. It's really disgusting. I'm trying not to get too pissed off when I start thinking about this stuff. I start getting really pissed off, and I'm going to try not to get pissed off about it. As me and you are struggling to eat, we have to file our taxes. Government's stealing our money. We're trying to squeak by to keep the friggin' lights on and eat a friggin' ham sandwich every once in a while. And these guys are running around stealing billions, getting awards, living the high life on our back. And it's just not going to get pissed off about it today. But this stuff boils my blood, man. I'm sure it does yours too. Okay, moving on to more of the AI takeover here. The problem, reaction, solution. Technocracy. Scientific dictatorship. State Department to use AI to revoke visas for foreign students who appear pro-Hamas. Axios tells us they're doing it, man. They're doing it. Secretary of State, Little Marco, is launching an AI-fueled catch and revoke effort to cancel the visas of foreign nationals who appear to support Hamas or other designated terror groups. Senior State Department officials told Axios. And you could be pro-aardvark and cheer it on, and it's the greatest thing ever. Wait till they flip it on you. Pro-aardvark's not going to be enough. You'll see. You'll see. And you sold your soul for nothing. Federal judge declines to block DOGE from Treasury access. Today, a few hours ago, a federal judge in Washington, D.C. denied an injunction request aimed at preventing employees from DOGE from accessing Treasury Department data systems. Despite acknowledged privacy concerns, the judge found no evidence that DOGE operations led to sensitive information leaks. However, DOGE's access remains restricted in separate legal actions by Democratic attorney generals. So now the Democrats are literally pro-corruption. Are they backhanded helping us slow down technocracy? They're not thinking that at all. I am, but they're not. They're not. But it is backhandedly helping us a little bit to slow it down. It's not gonna work, but it is putting a little bump in the road here. A little bump in the road, but for the wrong reasons again. So I can agree with them on the point, but for the reasoning, it's all wrong. Okay, because they're the party of pro-corruption now. It's literally, they're protesting for corruption. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. So moving on here. Has anybody, continuing theme, has anybody in the federal government gotten in trouble for anything for all this corruption exposed? I asked Skynet, Gronk, right? So I went and asked the old AI over there at Skynet, and it told me as of today there is limited definitive publicly available information from official sources confirming specific arrests of federal government officials for corruption this year. The search results provided earlier include information about federal government corruption arrests, but much of it pertains to prior years or ongoing efforts rather than confirmed 2025 indictments. For instance, posts on X mention the arrest of John Rogers, a former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve, for allegedly leaking trade secrets to China. We covered that. However, these claims from social media lack corroboration from official government or news sources within the provided references, and the Federal Reserve, while influential, is a quasi-public entity, not a direct federal government agency. I'm surprised they admit that. It took a long time to get them to even admit this for those following the Federal Reserve. Broader context for references shows that the FBI and Department of Justice actively pursue public corruption cases, with 334 official corruption convictions reported for year 2023, including 44 involving federal law enforcement officials. More recent data from September 2024 indicates 23 new official corruption prosecutions, the number that reflects a monthly snapshot rather than a yearly total. These figures suggest ongoing efforts, but specific 2025 arrests of federal officials are not detailed in provided sources. So literally, for all the recent corruption that's been coming out, no one gets in trouble. What do you think of that? Makes you want to file your taxes and pay them, right? Me too. DOJ puts prosecutors on leave amid high-profile cases. The U.S. Department of Justice has placed 3 federal prosecutors in Manhattan on administrative leave. Why are they not putting cuffs on them? 2 of these prosecutors, Andrew Robach and Celia Cohen, are involved in the corruption case against New York City Mayor Eric Adams, while Robach also prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. This action has sparked discussions about possible political motivations behind the decision. Still, they don't get in trouble. Administrative leave, really? But don't you worry, MAGA man Dan Bongino's assistant director of the FBI, and he's going to come in there and take care of all this corruption, right? Right. There he is as a Secret Service for old Barry Soetoro, Barack Hussein Obama. And Citizen Free Press asks, is Bongino now investigating Obama for Crossfire Hurricane? Don't hold your breath. Lo and behold, we do have federal government workers that are arrested for corruption, but not from any of the DOGE stuff. Soldiers arrested for alleged espionage ties to China. The FBI, in a coordinated effort with the DOJ, arrested 2 active duty U.S. Army soldiers stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord and 1 former U.S. Army soldier for allegedly stealing government property and engaging in a bribery scheme. These individuals, named Junzhou Li Tu Tian and Rohu Duan have been indicted for charges related to conspiracy to commit bribery and theft of defense intelligence, while prosecutors claim involved passing sensitive information to entities linked to China. And so we got some federal government arrests, but not exactly what we're looking for. But yeah. China bad. And here's a statement from Kash Patel of the FBI, new director there. He's cleaning it all up, we're told. The Patriots are in control. While bribery and corruption have thrived under China's Communist Party, this behavior cannot be tolerated with our service members who are entrusted with sensitive military information, including national defense information, regarding the arrest of 2 active duty and 1 retired U.S. military service members there. Not quite what we're looking for. And of course, we can always demonize China along with it. So it's what the government's looking for. It's not what the taxpayers are looking for, honestly. DHS leakers face prosecution for ICE operations disclosure. The Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, brunette Barbie woman, dog killer, has announced that 2 individuals within the DHS have been identified for allegedly leaking information about ICE operations. These individuals are set to be referred to the DOJ for prosecution, facing potential penalties of up to 10 years in federal prison. I'll believe it when I see it. Not holding my breath on this. Department of Homeland Security terminates TSA union bargaining rights. This is quite a story here. More, just everywhere you look, it's corrupt beyond our imagination. It is the federal government, all government, but especially the federal, U.S. federal government here, is an organized crime syndicate. Case in point. And it just goes on and 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 on for infinitely. This specific report, DHS has announced the termination of the collective bargaining agreement for TSA officers, impacting approximately 50,000 employees. DHS claims this move is to address the issue where more TSA agents were reportedly engaged in union work rather than security duties at U.S. airports. This decision has sparked debates over labor rights versus operational efficiency. DHS says, shockingly, TSA had more people doing full-time union work than actually performing security functions at 86% of America's airports. So it really does beg the question, why are we not, we must be sucker. I must be a dumbass sucker for not getting in on this grift that apparently a large majority of Americans who are great civil servants, thank you for your service, are in on and just living high on the hog, not even working. And I'm busting my butt over here, like I'm saying, trying to earn a freaking enough to eat a ham sandwich once a week. So I guess I'm the sucker idiot, right? Looks like it. I asked myself this question. So yeah, they're not even doing their security duties. They're doing union work. FEMA finance chief. Here's a big scandal that's been coming out here now. I don't know if you guys have seen this breaking. FEMA finance chief fired for putting illegal immigrants in 5-star hotels, reveals sinister setup plot by DOGE. Remember that? It's can we get the video playing here? CBS is reporting, and we can get the video playing. I was having problems with it earlier. Here we go. Let's play this report from CBS News about it with their all-seeing eye logo there that we do appreciate.
Rapid and so haphazard, it's been hard to figure out what the impact might be on the rest of us. But we could find out the next time there's a natural disaster.
Because among those fired are more than 200 workers at FEMA, including the chief financial officer. In her first interview, Mary Comans told me her firing came after she alleges Elon Musk spread false claims about her work.
My name has been slandered. I've been personally attacked. My family has been harassed.
President Trump denied me of my rights.
For 2 decades, Mary Comans was an unknown bureaucrat at the Department of Homeland Security until one Tuesday afternoon when the world's richest man posted her photo on X to his 219 million followers, calling her actions criminal.
I'm apolitical. I've served both Republican and Democrat presidents with honor and integrity.
Most recently as the chief financial officer for the disaster relief agency FEMA. In early February, Comans says one of Elon Musk's top lieutenants, Brad Smith, zeroed in on a program approved by Congress to reimburse cities and states for housing undocumented migrants.
He specifically asked, he said, have you paused payments to state and local entities? And my colleague who oversees the grants program responded, no. And Brad Smith said, that's the right answer. Payments to state and local entities should continue under the normal process and procedures.
So you're thinking at that point?
That we were squared away.
Squared away until 5 days later, when Musk posted, the DOGE team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to New York City to house illegal migrants, saying the agency violated the law.
That really came as a surprise to me and my colleagues.
Did you document all of this? What happened?
I did.
But it didn't matter. The next morning, a colleague delivered the news. Comans had been fired at the direction of the president.
The official Department of Homeland Security had put out a press release here. It says, you were fired for circumventing leadership to unilaterally make egregious payments for luxury New York City hotels for migrants.
That is not a true statement. I was fired illegally by the Trump administration for doing my job.
In that same press release, the agency called Comans a deep state activist.
I feel betrayed, not by my colleagues, but by a department and agency that I gave my life to.
Now, Brad Smith, a DOGE official, did not respond to our request for a comment. Neither did a spokesman for the Department of Homeland Security. Mary Comans has filed a lawsuit against the department, asking for damages, alleging defamation, and that her firing was illegal.
Maurice, targeted by the richest man in the world on Twitter and all that, does Comans feel physically in danger?
She absolutely does. She feels threatened. She feels that other people are out there using her name badly, saying terrible things about her. She's called the local police, changed her movements. She's got the police keeping an eye on her and her family. Whew. Yeah, tough moment.
Tough. Well, you work for a crime syndicate, the biggest one in the world, so you're not going to get any sympathy here. FEMA is unconstitutional, along with the Department of Homeland Security. They need to be abolished immediately. We need the full declassified files on 9/11 and end all this bullshit in the TSA, all of it. Everything under the Department of Homeland Security needs to go now. And yeah, she does. She is a criminal working for the largest crime syndicate in the world, the United States federal government. So, yeah, and I see Bob over there in the chat talking about he's filtering his water. You need microplastics in your brain, Bob, so maybe don't filter it. I don't know. Okay, so more sympathy, more crying, more sob stories about the downsizing of the government. Pentagon is placing probationary employees on leave in advance of mass firings. They still can't even find the money from freaking 9/11, right? That Rumsfeld told us about it on 9/10. We're still looking for that money, and all the accountant auditors that were looking for it, Bin Laden got them, blew them up, right? That's the story. And so we still haven't found that money, and there's what, 21 trillion, whatever, so on and so on, that Catherine Austin Fitts talks about. I think it's way more than that, honestly. Pentagon, here's that story. Pentagon is placing probationary employees on leave in advance of mass firings. The terminations are expected within weeks under plans to fire nearly 1/10 of the DOD's 55,000 probies. It's a lot of freaking probies. Not enough. Fire them all. AI's going to take over sooner or later anyway. There are 55,000 total probationary employees at the DOD right now. That's too many, man. Fire them all immediately and then do CBS sob stories on it. And we'll laugh in your face like you laughed in our face while you forced all the medical intervention upon us. Remember that? How you could ever go work for the government after that is beyond, it's just beyond my comprehension. And you should have known before that. But that just should, done deal, seal the deal. It's over, game over after their behavior during the medical intervention period. It's like debate. There is no debate about it. As they love to say, I think that's leading into the debate's over. The science is settled. They love that, right? Bob says correct. Trillions are vanishing. Dov Zakheim. Look up who that guy is. Yeah, indeed. Where'd he go? Exactly. Where'd he go? Where did he go? I don't know. Somewhere with the kabillions of dollars laughing at our face. Yeah, Barry, thank you for the halftime warning there, the live commercial break. I got to pick up the pace here. Less commentary, more news, right? Because we got a lot more news to cover. Thank you, everybody, tuning in to Weaponized News on this Friday edition, Daylight Savings edition, because I'm not going to see you until Monday. But everybody go to weaponizednews.com, get yourself some stickers there to help support the cause. And by the way, Carrie, if you're out there listening, I did resend your stickers and pin today with the correct postage on it. That was totally my mistake. I do apologize. I know you were waiting by the mailbox for your Weaponized News stickers and pin. And we do appreciate you being a subscriber, truly. So it is in the mail today. The check's in the mail, as they say, with the correct postage. So you should be receiving it within the next, I don't know, next week, early next week sometime, as we're both in California here. It shouldn't take more than 3 days, but who knows nowadays with the mail. And let me know if you don't receive it, and I will send it again. We're going to get you your stickers and Weaponized News pin, Carrie. So we do appreciate your subscription once again. Also let me show you for full transparency. I think we've achieved our goal. Now it's just breaking through the, wall of denial, the monopoly wall of Google. But we've achieved our goal. Now we need to get our subscribers up on the YouTube. But here, we've achieved our goal of 4,000 hours viewed in 365 days. You can see right here for full transparency, we've achieved that goal. Thank you, audience. I truly do appreciate it. Barry leading the way. It's friggin' awesome, dude. We did it. We did it. And so now we need to get the subscribers up to 1,000. and then we will fulfill all of the tiers of monetization on YouTube requirements. Then we just have to get an AdSense account approved to where the monopoly known as Alphabet will do business with little me, Weaponized News, here, as I try not to run afoul of the community guidelines. So the new campaigns just simply subscribe to Weaponized News YouTube channel and go to Weaponized News and get some stickers. I'll think of a new campaign here, but thank you again, viewing audience, for helping us achieve the 4,000 hours in 365 days. I think they're pissed off because they're like, why? How's this little channel blowing up all of a sudden? You know what I mean? And it helps with Simon Goes on George Galloway. He has a giant audience. A lot of viewers on YouTube come over from there, and everybody else that has come over from Odyssey, Rumble, Rockfin, BitChute, X, Facebook. Thank you all for helping with this campaign. Now we simply need 1,000 subscribers, and then we'll probably we need peace in Russia until the next current thing we run afoul of is used against us to deny doing business with us, to deny us access to the market, a clear violation of antitrust laws. Maybe someday, some way, the great patriots who are in control of the U.S. government now will find it upon themselves necessary to go ahead and enforce antitrust laws and protect small American businesses. I'm not holding my breath, but that would be the right thing to do, government. Okay, continuing. You can do a lot with, apparently, Barry. Barry says you can do a lot with three accounts and a good VPN. Apparently. All other live viewers who don't hit the like are the YouTube staff and NSA. It may very well be true. It's probably just all AI bots, but hey, I'll take what I can get. Okay, continuing the news. Let me blast through it. We got quite a bit still to get to. ICE detains U.S. citizen in Virginia, raising profiling concerns. In Northern Virginia, ICE agents detained Jinsey Machando. Sounds like a foreigner to me. No, a U.S. citizen and a Trump voter of Hispanic descent, like the Scheinbaum, the president of Mexico, right? No, seriously though. Despite his efforts to show identification, the incident occurred when Machado was stopped by agents while driving to work, highlighting concerns over racial profiling within ICE operations. After verifying his citizenship through his Virginia driver's license, he was released. Trump versus Biden border debate. Did we play this already? There's a lot of hype, a lot of PR, a lot of propaganda, but we're not getting the deportations that we need. Sorry to tell you. It's just the numbers are not there. And they're going after American citizens that are of Hispanic descent, apparently, according to this report. Not good. Not good. Draft order pressures Trump on Puerto Rican independence. And so while we're trying to get Canada, Greenland, we're trying to get them under U.S. rulership. Looks like Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, is trying to break away and have independence here. Trump is under pressure to consider an executive order aimed at transitioning Puerto Rico towards sovereignty and independence. This draft, circulating among congressional officials, suggests that such a move would save the United States taxpayers approximately $617 billion, primarily due to the elimination of federal financial responsibilities toward the island. However, Skepticism surrounds the report's validity, with some sources questioning its feasibility and suggesting that Puerto Rico's strategic importance might override financial considerations. God forbid they are allowed to be a sovereign nation and have independence, because that's not what America's about. We're about American imperialism and growing the empire. Thank you for your service. Continuing, Trump stops aid to South Africa, grants citizenship to farmers. President Trump has announced the cessation or stoppage of all federal funding to South Africa, citing the country's land expropriation policies as, quote, terrible for farmers. Trump has also offered an expedited pathway to U.S. citizenship for South African farmers and their families, describing them as victims needing refuge. This decision has sparked a variety of reactions throughout the interwebs, with some viewing it as leadership while others view it as pure racism. Here's Trump's. We'll read right from Trump's post here. South Africa is being terrible, plus 2 long-time farmers in the country. They are confiscating their land and farms, and much worse than that, a bad place to be right now. And we are stopping all federal funding. To go a step further, any farmer with family from South Africa seeking to flee that country for reasons of safety will be invited into the United States of America with a rapid pathway to citizenship. This process will begin immediately. We're getting to that, isn't Elon? We're getting to that, Ruckus. You're a little bit ahead of me, but we're there now. Starlink awaits South African approval amid Black Economic Empowerment, BEE, policy debate. Elon Musk's Starlink is not currently allowed to operate in South Africa due to local regulations that require telecom companies to have 30% ownership by historically disadvantaged groups as part of Black Economic Empowerment policy. Musk has claimed racial discrimination while South Africa officials insist the issue is regulatory compliance. Discussions are ongoing about potential exemptions or compliance strategies for Starlink Skynet to operate in South Africa legally. And then here's what Musk has to say. Musk says Starlink is not allowed to operate in South Africa because I'm not black. What? What? Oh. EFF leader Julius Malada says U.S. threatens to cut aid to South Africa are nothing more than aardvarks revenge for South Africa's support of Palestine. Let's watch this clip. There's another angle that I thought it was just because they're racist against Musk. But it turns out there's another angle to this thing.
When Donald Trump declares that, I open quote, bad things are happening in South Africa without evidence, we must not assume that the USA is misinformed. Instead, we must question the real intention behind such statement. After Trump's remarks, the US froze foreign aid globally under the pretext of assessing alignment with the policy outlook. For South Africa, this meant PEPFAR funding of HIV/AIDS response was under threat. On 26 February 2025, the freeze became permanent, terminating funding indefinitely. The US aggression towards South Africa is nothing more than Israel's revenge for our moral stance in support of Palestine. Meanwhile, some of us have been labeled international criminals, a designation used before the West assassinates those who opposed its agenda. Before invading the nations, the US always fabricates human rights violations to justify intervention. Today, same tactics are being used against South Africa. The growing calls by right-wing groups for foreign funding to establish independent states and to be armed by foreign interests must be recognized as part of a broader plan. This is the early stage of economic isolation, leading ultimately to military intervention. Next, AGOA will be terminated, escalating tensions between USA and South Africa.
So there's a different angle on that whole situation. But yeah, Elon Musk is black. He has how many? 14 kids now out of wedlock. And so he essentially qualifies as being black. Continuing. Okay, on to the Stand Up for Science section of the show that I'm going to tread lightly upon due to the heavy scientific bias out there on the interwebs against any criticism whatsoever, which is actually against the scientific method. And so I thought we would start off this section by reading what the scientific method is. The scientific method is a systemic process used to investigate phenomena, acquire new knowledge, or redefine existing knowledge. Redefine. The science is settled. It's the backbone of scientific discovery, designed to minimize bias and ensure results are reliable and reproducible. Step 1, observation. Step 2, question. Step 3, hypothesis. Step 4, experiment. Step 5, analysis. Step 6, conclusion. Step 7, repeat and refine. I know that's a conspiracy theory and it's horrific, but that's the scientific method. You can see right here, God forbid that these scientists actually stand up for science and follow the scientific method. I know it's horrific conspiracy, but that's what it is. And they made the rules, not me. And so I'm simply saying, follow your own scientific method. They refuse to and scream in your face and censor you and ban you when you even say that much. So organizers of, there's massive protests all around the country, Washington, D.C., and so on, for science. Stand up for science, right? Everybody loves science. And so, but at this scientific protest, what not to wear, bring. Wear a mask. This has always been good practice at protests and is even better practice now. Protect yourself and others from bats and dots and pepper spray by wearing medical grade masks. And so they're basically saying, yeah, very scientific there. Continuing on to the protest here. There's a bunch of these maniacs on there, these left-wing mad scientists. I hate these people, honestly. I hate them because of what they've done to science and what they did to everyone during the medical intervention period. And they're complete maniacs who don't respect science at all. But continue to virtue signal. Here's one of them. Science saves lives. Denial gets you fired. It's a nice sign. Literally admitting mad scientist. Another one. Public health, let's give it a miracle. And you like the hair there? Completely insane people, honestly, at this point, that refuse the scientific method, which has been established to have good science. Here we go. The leader of the tyrants here, Former NIH secretary, chief, whatever you want to call him, Francis Collins, breaks out a guitar and sings at the Stand Up for Science protest today. Let's watch this.
This is a song for all the good people. Come on. All the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble dream. Well, this is a song for all of those dreamers. We're looking for answers to come our way. Scientists, doctors, students, all seekers, we share in the hopes for a much brighter day. Come on now. Well, this is a song for all the good people, all the good people who are part of this family. This is a song for all the good people. We're joined together by this noble dream. Well, this is a song for all of the pain.
I knew that you guys would enjoy that. This guy's acting like a beatnik, right? A hippie. This guy's a multi-billionaire off the back of the American taxpayers, off the back of standing up for science. But see, I did follow the science during the medical intervention period. They didn't. And they refused to even acknowledge the scientific method. And so we followed their own science, and everything they did was exactly opposite of that. And pointing it out gets you banned. And so all these people are giant fraud, criminal, just disgusting. Disgusting. Led there by the nice old man, Francis Collins, right? He's just a nice old hippie with a guitar. Makes me so angry, you don't even know. Okay, so all that went on. These crazy people saying they stand for science, stand up for science, but they refuse the scientific method. And then you quote their own science back to them, and they freaking scream in your face and cancel you. Yeah. They even fraud being hippies. This guy's a cold-blooded, I don't even know to say the words, but I like this one. I'm not going to play the video, but you could see on the still here. There you go. Maha kills. They're literally against making America healthy. These are complete lunatics. Mad scientists, self-admitted, many of them. CDC is reportedly planning to initiate a comprehensive study examining potential connections between miracles and autism. This move follows assertions by Bobby Kennedy Jr., now serving as Secretary of HHS, despite decades of research concluding no link between miracles and autism. And so that's the official line, even though I could go show you. I didn't pull it up here, but over 50, I forget even how many studies showing the link. But hey, it's the official line, so what do I know? What do I know, man? We're sticking with the official line for the censors. There it is. So official study here now. Amish miracle exemption challenge rejected by appeals court. A federal appeals court has upheld New York's law requiring miracles for school children, ruling against the Amish community's challenge. This decision affects children attending Amish-operated private schools, requiring them to comply with the state miracle mandates or face fines and expulsion from their educational facilities. The ruling emphasizes the state's interest in public health while it navigates the complex issue of religious freedoms. It's a violation of their natural rights for the Stand Up for Science crowd. What do you even say? Corrupt New York court? What do you even say? Truly disgusting. Violation of their natural rights, violation of their First Amendment, and on and on. Their constitutional rights, their civil rights, their human rights. It's just beyond the pale of disgusting, but here it is. The good courts of New York. Arkansas Senate okays ivermectin. The Arkansas Senate has passed Senate Bill 189 with a significant majority allowing the sale of ivermectin over the counter without the need of a prescription. Don't do drugs, kids. That's all I could tell you about it. I wouldn't. The same guys that make the miracle make this dewormer as well. Keep that. I'd keep that in the back of your mind. As the quote alternative out there pushes this, I don't trust any of it. Just being honest with you here. Coke, Pepsi, Miracle, horse dewormer. How about none of it? The wins, we do get some wins. We saw that big loss for the Amish, for all of us, really, for religious freedom. For religious freedom, that's a big loss out of New York. But here's a win. So we're going to take the wins that we can get here on a Friday of March 7, 2025. Fluoride IQ debate intensifies as states consider bans. Recent studies published by the NIH-funded journal suggest that exposure to fluoride levels common in areas with water fluoridization is associated with lower IQ scores in children. These findings coincide with legislative movements in states like Utah and Florida to either ban or reconsider the addition of fluoride to public water systems. And so as we continue to report here, doing the good work, Fluoride Action Network, they're getting it out of a lot of places. We're still waiting to see if the whole state of Utah bans it. I don't know what's holding that up, but we're waiting to see there. And it's global. It's global. They're making moves in New Zealand, fluoride-free New Zealand here. They say another important study that is relevant to New Zealand. The children in this study were exposed to fluoride levels similar to New Zealand studies, and there was significant loss of IQ. So they're global here, fighting it as the Anglo-American Venetian establishment loves fluoridating the public drinking water supply. And so you can see right here, Florida is making the big moves there, Bob. So you could have your plastic water, and you're going to have to add your own fluoride, though, because it's been it's not being added to the water supply here in these counties. The majority of Florida counties are now fluoride free. And this is like the most corrupt one, right? Broward, They're always like that's where these shootings happen. All kind of crazy corruption. Isn't that where Wasserman Schultz is out of too? But yeah, so there's some wins, some big wins for us actually in public health. That have been a long time coming, man. A long time coming. And we need to continue to celebrate those. I did also see, but did I report on it? I think we reported on it. There's 3 states now looking to ban mRNA. Let me look that up real quickly here for you. mRNA ban. And so last time I looked yesterday, there was 3 states, Iowa, Idaho, and Montana. Florida, Kentucky, and Tennessee are all looking at legislation proposing to ban mRNA. Miracles. If that could happen, that would be a big win for Stand Up for Science crowd, right? Right. I don't know. You got the dots, right? You know what I'm saying? The dot disease out there. And so that's sucking up all of the public health scaremongering right now. But in the background, we had the bird flu still going on, right? But Politico tells us, good news, bird flu spread is slowing down. California officials say the bird flu outbreak that has been ripping through California farms since August is starting to abate. State health officials and agriculture officials are heralding the good news that has sent egg prices soaring nationwide. And so it looks like they're backing off the bird flu scare now, going to the dots. As this next story will tell us, second dot disease death reported in ongoing outbreak. They tested a dead man and said he came out positive for the dot disease. I don't believe anything they say. They tell us, all the public health tells us that they are working on rebuilding public trust. I don't know how they could have ever lost it. Stand up for science, right? But call me skeptical. I don't believe the word they say. So, moving on to the economy here now. The Federal Reserve is telling us that their chairman, actually, Powell, in meeting minutes from today's Federal Reserve meeting, said he expects the path to inflation target will continue to be bumpy. So expect prices to continue to rise. High uncertainty around policy changes and the effects of said changes. Despite uncertainty, the economy is in a good place, he tells us. Another one. I'm sorry, I don't trust the central banker. Call me critical. Yesterday broke while we were live here. The old making Bitcoin strategic reserve. Here's Trump at the White House Crypto Summit yesterday. Let's watch this short clip. And so indeed it is happening. And we can have AI and everything on blockchain, and our total enslavement will ensue faster than you can blink your eyes.
Last year, I promised to make America the Bitcoin superpower of the world and the crypto capital of the planet, and we're taking historic action to deliver on that promise, as you know, around the table. Yesterday, I signed an executive order officially creating our strategic Bitcoin reserve, and this will be a virtual Fort Knox for digital gold to be housed within the United States Treasury. That's a big thing, Scott.
Ruckus is reporting to us that he watched the crypto summit today, and it was a huge nothing burger. So thank you for that reporting and boring us with the crypto summit. It was a nothing burger. Are they going to give back the ill-gotten gains that the federal government stole from alleged criminals? No, they're not. They're not getting that money back. Is old Ross Ulbricht getting his bitcoins back that they stole from? No. And others, and many others. No. Treasury Secretary Bassett says the economy could be starting to roll a bit. They're talking it up, which is good. We need confidence, right? That's basically the whole thing is just smoke and mirrors, and based on confidence. It's all a con game, right? The entire economy is a con game as we're in a fiat debt-based monetary system. And so it's all based on your confidence. And if the public would ever wake up to what our audience knows, then the whole thing would collapse like tomorrow and there'd be a revolution in this country, as many central bankers have admitted over the years, right? But the public is blissfully unaware and uninterested in what makes the world go round, the US dollar. And so they sit there in bliss and continue to extort us and steal from us. So talking of the economy, the old Treasury Secretary Bassett here says, what does he say? He says, the market and the economy have just been hooked. We've been addicted to this government spending, and there is going to be a detox period. And so, not really talking it up, but you know what I'm saying? And so the Federal Reserve's inflation rate, which is supposed to be 2%, that's their mandate, right? Keep prices under control and keep employment under control, or unemployment, however you want to state it. That's their stated mandates. They failed at both. So by all rights, they should be dissolved by Congress. But hey, when they're on the take making kabillions, they don't give a shit if you're dying in the streets, as we've seen, overdosing from their opiates and so on, of death and despair bestowed upon us by said federal government crime syndicate. So yeah, it's going to be bumpy, but like I said, they're rolling back even the spending cuts. It's like, I'll get to that. We'll do that like Monday or something. Go to DOGE and see what it exactly is, because it was pumped. They're pumping it, and now it's like going down again as far as federal spending cuts. And Mike Johnson says that we got to pass this continuing resolution to keep the government funded, don't you know? And it's going to include all the fraud that was just uncovered by DOGE. You got to keep funding that for your own good, of course. Because God forbid we shut down the federal government. Okay. Where we got more? We got this story. God forbid we shut down the California state government. Audit finds LA homeless funding mismanaged. Shock, I know. A recent court-ordered audit has revealed significant oversight failures in the management of homeless services funding in Los Angeles. The audit found that the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA, and other city entities have not adequately tracked spending, leaving billions with a B of dollars potentially vulnerable to waste, fraud, and abuse. Issues include approving invoices without verification of services and general lack of accountability in how funds are used to address homelessness. It's a giant racketeering operation by LA city government and the state government, feeding into nonprofits that their cousin, their uncle, their dog are in charge of, and NGOs that are, quote, helping the homeless. And we've seen the homeless crisis do nothing but increase under their watch, and not accounting for $2.4 billion in LA City funding. No one gets in trouble. No one goes to jail. In the private sector, you're going to be fired. There's going to be investigations. You're probably going to be charged, and they're going to track down this money. But hey, it's your taxpayer money. It's city government money. You don't like you're being mean to homeless? Is that what you're saying? You're a bigot against homeless people? Well, yeah. Let's play this report about it from Fox. This is local Fox 26.
Squandered tax dollars by the millions. A sweeping audit of city government reveals waste, duplication, and corruption. Can the anticipated savings absorb the daunting amount of red ink threatening Houston's financial well-being? At the state capitol, billions in property tax relief gets a unanimous green.
That wasn't even the right clip. That was from Houston. Audit finds inefficiencies. That was in Houston. That was Texas. Excuse me. That was in a video was embedded in this report. Sorry for the wrong report. Los Angeles cannot track money spent, so it's happening in Houston too. But that was a different issue. Back to LA here. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. They're crying about it. One of these scammers says that crying about the ODs. It's sad, right? But it's not dollars we're talking about. Those dollars translate into people's lives. Yeah, your life, because you're living high on the hog. The auditor said that the agency paper trail was so poor that tracking 2.5 billion with a B spent last year was nearly impossible. So, yeah, money laundering of $2.5 billion. That seems like a lot of money. I guess it's literally nothing, a drop in the bucket of fraud everywhere you look. I just click on a report, not even from the same freaking city, and they're like, oh, yeah, over in Houston, there's big fraud going on, too, after an audit. So it's just like everywhere you look, like I keep saying, it's like it's undisputable that the government is a criminal racketeering protection racket, crime syndicate. Is government getting in trouble? Multiple residents raided in California corruption probe. God forbid, I know. Huntington Park City Hall and a number of residents were recently raided in a corruption probe targeting an alleged misuse of funds. The Los Angeles District Attorney's Office noted that the investigation, called Operation Dirty Pond, focuses on millions allocated for the Huntington Park Region Aquatic Center. The $24 million contract for the Aquatic Center was awarded in 2019 to JT Construction Group without a competitive bidding process. We can do better than that. But you see a lot of these contracts to their cousin, their dog, and so on. What a racket it is. Hudson's Bay, this is for Canada, for you, Barry. Hudson's Bay could file bankruptcy within days, according to the Wall Street Journal. Hudson's Bay is Canada's oldest retail chain, established in 1970, is reportedly on the brink of bankruptcy. This follows its separation from Saks Global and has sparked a variety of reactions, from concern over the loss of the national landmark to discussions on economic resilience and potential government roles in its future. Well, nationalize it and have old Trudeau run it. And we do have a very concerning video toward the end here from Trudeau. So the chain operates more than 80 stores across the country and is rumored to be looking at bankruptcy. That's what happens in the private sector when you mismanage and the economy goes bad and so on, you go bankrupt. In the government, you just get more money when you mismanage everything and basically steal all the money. You just get more money. Siemens, here's some good news, I guess. I don't know about Siemens. They're part of building the whole technocracy, but Siemens invests $285 million in U.S. manufacturing. Siemens, a German technology company, has announced a significant investment of $285 million in U.S. manufacturing. The investment includes the establishment of 2 new facilities in Pomona, California and Fort Worth, Texas, expected to generate over 900 skilled manufacturing jobs as they build a technocracy for us. DOJ probes high egg prices, conspiracy or market dynamics. Well, you cull, 100 million birds, then there's going to be less around to produce it. I know it's hard to find out, and we need a federal investigation into it. So maybe the DOJ can sort this out on the way to finding all the Epstein files, huh? Just saying. Trump threatens 250% tariff on Canadian dairy goods. 250%. Trump has threatened a 250% tariff on dairy goods starting as early as Monday, following a temporary reprieve on other imports from Canada. I don't know. More big talk. I'll believe it when I see it. It's all negotiating tactics. Trump announces tariff reduction deal with India. Trump has publicly stated that India has agreed to significantly reduce tariffs on American goods following negotiations aimed at balancing trade. So he's using the tariffs as an economic bargaining tool here, as we see. Trump sues Capital One over debanking. The Trump organization has initiated legal action against Capital One in Miami-Dade County for the closure of over 300 of its bank accounts in 2021. The lawsuit claims that the terminations were without cause and suggests political motivation. Though this remains an allegation, the lawsuits seek to address potential violations of consumer protection laws and significant financial damage claimed by the Trump entities. Trump threatens Russia with sanctions over Ukraine war. Trump has threatened to impose large-scale banking sanctions and tariffs on Russia in response to the ongoing military action against Ukraine. I thought they already did that. I don't know how much more can you sanction them. I guess more. They already kicked them out of the internet, out of SWIFT. That was the whole incentive to go ahead full bore into BRICS, right? Was kicking them out of the SWIFT international system to do international trade with their international bank cartel system, right? So I don't know how much more they could do. I guess a lot more. So threats of sanctions. Here's exactly what he said. Let's go right to Trump's comments. Based on the fact that Russia is absolutely pounding Ukraine on the battlefield right now, I am strongly considering large-scale banking sanctions, and tariffs on Russia until a ceasefire and final settlement agreement on peace is reached. To Russia and Ukraine, get to the table right now before it's too late. Thank you. At least he thanked them. We need that to happen so we can be monetized on YouTube. No, seriously, we need them to stop killing each other. It's quite horrific. Trump on raising costs as he implements tariffs. There's going to be a bit of turbulence. Let's watch this short clip from Trump. As what did the Treasury Secretary say? He said, I like their language. It's all about confidence in the market. He said, again, the Treasury Secretary Bassett said, the market and the economy have just become hooked. We've become addicted to this government spending, and there's going to be a detox period. On to Trump. It's going to be we're gonna suffer a little bit of turbulence. He tells us, have fun trying to eat with no eggs.
Millions of Americans watched your joint address earlier this week where you warned that there could be a little disturbance that Americans could feel as a function of these taxes, these tariffs. How much disturbance are you willing to accept in the near term as a function of that? And to set expectations, how long should Americans expect things to cost a bit more?
Well, so far, Peter, there hasn't been very much because these numbers are coming out. We're here for just a little over 4 weeks. And these are fantastic numbers. I was watching some of the reports this morning. They were surprised. There could be some disturbance, a little bit of disturbance. I solved a little bit of that because I have respect for our auto companies, and I gave them a little bit of a 1 month reprieve because it was unfair, although I'm sure they'll take advantage of it. I see they're driving a lot of cars into the U.S. to try and avoid the tariffs, and they're taking advantage of it a little bit. But they called me, they asked me, they said, could they have a little bit of
Yeah, Ruckus reported on that. China wants to go to war over tariffs, reportedly. Saber rattling going on there for sure. Their embassy posted on X that a trade war or a real war, whatever, they said F around and find out, basically. Okay. Now we're on to the geopolitical section. Everybody's favorite man with a chainsaw. That's converted to aardvarkism. That's a great Argentinian, Milei, president of Argentina. He's a great advocate for free speech, as he Barron's reports to us here now. Mute button for pesky reporters. Milei, mute. New media rules. So the great libertarian hero here. Let's go to this report. Argentina's presidency said it is considering asking voters to decide which journalists should cover Javier Milei's events, and is also mulling a mute button to silence overly persistent reporters. Be careful what you wish for. You just may get your right-wing authoritarian dictatorship there. Be careful what you wish for. This story we've been covering about the South Korean president, Yoon. Remember they had the drama. The police were outside his house. He was having a standoff with the police for like a week or something. Remember that? All that craziness after being impeached for declaring martial law, and that lasted like 6 hours. Now a court orders South Korean President Yoon released from jail for his criminal trial over martial law. And so now he's out of the old Huskow, and he can stand trial for his rebellion charge without being physically detained. That's good of him. That's good of him. There. Yoon was arrested and indicted in January over his December 3rd martial law decree that plunged the country into political turmoil. Remember that? We reported the whole drama here. The opposition-controlled parliament separately voted to impeach him, leading to his suspension from office. And so now he gets out of jail to go to his impeachment trial. And so that's, remember there was a whole thing, they could never get the government together to even do an impeachment trial. And so what, they let him rot in jail for what, like 60 days, something like this. Does it say? It doesn't even say how long he was in there. something like 2 months he rotted in jail there, and now he's out and looking to prove his innocence, even though it's all public, everything he did. So it's going to be interesting to see how his impeachment trial turns out. We'll continue to follow Yoon there in South Korea. Next, this guy, George School, I don't know how you pronounce it, Kalin Georgescu. He's back in Romania after being arrested there, despite facing multiple criminal charges related to fascist affiliations and campaign finance irregularities. He's back running for president. His candidacy has stirred a mix of enthusiasm and controversy. Let's watch a short clip from him. He's back to run for Romanian president. So he probably needs to get arrested again, I would say. We're going to follow those developments. Poland advances defense strategy with training and nuclear talks. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has announced plans for mandatory military training for all adult men in Poland by the end of the year in response to heightened security concerns in Europe. So, yeah, it's almost like the forever wars go on forever, right? I think that's what Ruckus said. Yeah, they want it to go on forever. Tusk has discussed the potential need for Poland to acquire or access nuclear capability, signaling a significant enhancement in Poland's defense posture amidst discussions with countries like France regarding nuclear cooperation. So they're allowed to have a nuke, maybe, but old Iran, God forbid, has a nuke. So what is the large-scale military training for all adult men, expanding the army from 200,000 to 500,000. So not good. Switzerland's climate efforts under review by Council of Europe. The Council of Europe has issued a decision indicating that Switzerland needs to enhance its climate action following a landmark ruling by the European Court of Human Rights in favor of Kalma Signorini, a group of elderly Swiss women. The committee acknowledged some progress but emphasized the necessity for Switzerland to further its efforts in mitigating and adapting to climate change to protect human rights. Trump on the Ukraine deal.
President Putin is bombing Ukraine.
Yeah.
Do you still believe him when he tells you that he wants peace?
Yeah, no, I believe him. I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards. They don't have the cards. As you know, we're meeting in Saudi Arabia on sometime next week, early. And we're talking, I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. I mean, they're bombing the hell out of them right now. And I put a statement in, a very strong statement. Can't do that. Can't do that.
Mr. President,
Trying to.
He said thank you at the end, right? He did an impromptu press conference today that didn't even say what it was about. He's talking more about it here.
They don't know how to end the war. I think I do know how to end the war. Despite the Russia hoax, I've always had a good relationship with Putin. And, you know, he wants to end the war. He wants to end it. And I think he's going to be more generous than he has to be. And that's pretty good. That means a lot of good things. Because frankly, you could have made a great deal if this war never started. You could have made a great deal. I don't know that anything would have had to be given up. This was not a war that was going to start, Brian, and it didn't start for 4 years. And, you know, somebody said, "Well, how do we know that?" Well, for 4 years it didn't start. I used to speak to Vladimir about it. I used to speak to him about it at length. It was the apple of his eye, but there was no way he was going in, and he knew it. You know, there were going to be consequences, but it did start. I mean, think of what happened.
There you go. Trump has the Putin brain chip implanted by Elon Musk. Proof right there. What do we got? Let me read this in honor of Simon. He did repost this from old Dugan. Dugan posted this. Alexander Dugan. Some say Putin's brain. I doubt it, but an influential strategist and philosopher from Russia. Let's read this quick post that he put out. Alexander Dugan, the Trump revolution. Donald Trump's return to power is not merely a political event. It is a geopolitical shift of historic proportions. In the Trump revolution, Dugan dissects the rise of Trumpism 2.0 and its role in dismantling the liberal globalist order, replacing it with a new reality, the order of great powers. This is not a cooperative multipolarity envisioned by Russia and China, but a harsher, pragmatic world in which only strong and truly sovereign civilizations can assert themselves. Trump's America is no longer the enforcer of globalism, but a traditionalist empire in the making, prioritizing its own strength while recognizing the legitimacy of other great powers. This transformation reverberates beyond America, giving new momentum to Europe's patriotic opposition as Trumpist forces challenge Washington's entrenched elite. European conservatives rally under the mega Make Europe Great Again banner, pushing back against the leftist establishment that has wrecked their nations. Dugan traces how Trumpism, technology, and realpolitik converge to forge this new world. From the ideological battles within America to collapse the old Atlanticist order. It's a new book that he came out with, I guess. There you go. The Trump Revolution. The new order of great powers, he's calling it. We've called it the new world order, the new era, the new order of great powers, according to Alexander Dugan. Continuing here. We're almost at the end, and then of course we have that. It's about an hour-long documentary, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. I think it ties everything together that we've been talking about here. The AI takeover. But first, Barry, we got to get this Trudeau yard sign off your property, man. Listen to this from Trudeau.
No one in Canada should ever be afraid to call themselves a Zionist. I am a Zionist. In Canada should ever be afraid to call themselves a Zionist. I am a Zionist.
Golf clap. How do they do it? Golf clap. That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Trudeau. Palestine calls on the United Nations to take action against aardvark's crimes in the West Bank and Gaza. Here it is, right here, via Simon on his X post. Another one via Simon in their phlegm-filled throat language. Here you can see translated. It says the information revealed this evening by this guy in old Aardvark Channel 13 about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that flowed from Qatar to the Prime Minister's office is extremely serious. Netanyahu was the man who approved the pouring of hundreds of millions of dollars from Qatar to Hamas for years. Qatar financed the massacre, and Netanyahu was the one who made it possible. Now it turns out that a lot of money has flowed into the pockets of Netanyahu's closest advisors who work alongside him, advise him, and run campaigns for him. These revelations require an immediate investigation of Netanyahu himself. We must examine the Prime Minister's role in the affair. The Aardvark public must know what Netanyahu knew and what his connections were with Qatar, and whether he also received funds over the years. And so old Bibi is facing a lot of problems there internally in Aardvark land, even though he's our shadow president here and gets all the praise that we could possibly give anybody. He's facing some problems there in Aardvark land. And then, so what is the solution? Of course, more war, because that's a cover for him. That's a cover for him, and that's exactly what he's going to do. More genocide, more Hamas terrorism, funded by said Western intelligence. Bibi is facing a new crisis that could topple his government. Let me put this up there. Bibi's facing a new crisis that could topple his government, and estimates indicate that he may give into demands of far-right Ben-Gvir. We miss him, don't we? Remember, he resigned for the fake ceasefire, all fake, or for the fake ceasefire, all fake. But Ben-Gvir, in order to return him to government to prevent its collapse. The crisis is linked to the threat of religious representatives not to support the new budget bill in the Knesset unless a law is passed exempting religious aardvarks from military service. This crisis has been ongoing for months and reached its peak just before the budget was approved. The vote on the new budget law must be completed by the last day of March, or the government will collapse, according to Aardvark law. So, what do you do with all this internal turmoil? You keep the genocide going even harder. IDF told to prepare for immediate return to Gaza fighting. Aardvark Post tells us, here it is. And so they said that as soon as the first phase was over. Bibi said that. It was the Aardvark Post or Aardvark Times, one of them. I remember at the time when he said it. But there you go. Bibi has ordered the IDF to prepare for an immediate return to fighting in Gaza. Con News reported Friday evening. Hamas is currently rejecting, they should just say U.S. intelligence cutouts or Western intelligence cutouts are currently rejecting U.S. Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff's proposal. So it is very difficult to make progress. Isn't it all by design here now? Here's Chinese foreign minister speaking of China there, Ruckus. He said that Gaza belongs to the Palestinian people. I know. It's quite horrific. Let's watch this short clip of Wang Yi, Chinese foreign minister.
To the Palestinian people. It is an inseparable part of the Palestinian territory. Changing its status by forceful means will not bring about peace, but only chaos. We support the plan for restoring peace in Gaza, initiated by Egypt and other Arab countries. The will of the people must not be defied, and the principle of justice must not be abandoned. If a major country truly cares about the people in Gaza, it should promote comprehensive and lasting ceasefire, ramp up humanitarian assistance, observe the principle of Palestinians governing Palestine, and contribute to the reconstruction in Gaza. Without Middle East peace, the world will not be stable. The Palestinian question has always been at the heart of the Middle East issue. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict takes place again and again simply because the two-state solution is only half achieved. The state of Israel has long been a reality, but the state of Palestine is still far beyond reach. Going forward, the international community should focus more on the two-state solution and give more support to independent statehood for Palestine. Only then could Palestine and Israel truly coexist in peace, and the Arab and Jewish peoples live side by side in enduring amity. To this end, first, all Palestinian factions need to deliver on the Beijing Declaration to achieve unity and self-strengthening. All parties in the Middle East need to rise above differences to support Palestinian statehood. And the international community need to build consensus and promote peace between Palestine and Israel. China is a strategic partner of Middle East countries and a sincere friend of our Arab brothers. We will continue to strive resolutely for justice, peace, and development for the Middle East people, and support countries in the region in taking their future in their own hands, independently exploring their development path, and realizing the dream of peace and revitalization at an early date. Thank you.
Here you go, Barry. I told you this guy's no good, man. Tried to tell you.
No one in Canada should ever be afraid to call themselves a Zionist. I am a Zionist.
What else do we got? Oh, there's still more. Trump's going to say F around and find out. Two Western intelligence cutouts there. Let's watch this.
Your envoy, Steve Witkoff, told us a little while ago that if Hamas does not release hostages, that the U.S. and Israel could take some action. What does that mean in your eyes? Is that military action? Would you join strikes with Israel?
Well, you're going to find out. I had the honor of spending a lot of time yesterday with quite a few of the people that we got out, and I can't believe how badly treated they were, really badly treated. Stories that you wouldn't even believe. Some of it was documented, some of it was so bad you couldn't really, I don't think you can put it on. And it's a shame, and they said one thing, that they have 59 hostages, of which many of them are killed. They want to know if we could just continue. They said without us, look, Biden wasn't able to get anybody out. We came along and they started releasing. But we have 59 left, of which 24 are living. The rest are dead. And I put out a statement. It's sort of self-explanatory, I think. But somebody's going to have to get a lot rougher than they're getting. It's a shame. And those 24 that are living, because they were with them just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, depending on when they got out. But they said they're in very bad shape.
Says you'll find out if America will attack with aardvarks. I don't think we will. We're funding them, giving them the arms. World Bank estimates $11 billion needed for reconstruction of Lebanon after aardvark Hezbollah war. Maybe, hopefully we can give the contract for the rebuilding of Lebanon to BlackRock, right? I mean, yeah, might as well. Might as well. They're keeping everybody safe. Yeah. So Yemen usually has their big rallies today. Yemen's Houthis threaten to resume attacks on aardvarks if aid to Gaza is not allowed to flow. So, yeah, aid's cut off there. It's a war crime. Bibi's facing internal corruption probes, to say the least. That one report, where was it out of? Channel 13. News Aardvark 13 is talking about how Bibi's funding the terrorists. Well, yeah, so's America. It's the Anglo-American Venetian establishment is funding the whole operation there. Don't you know? Quite horrific. And maybe some good news to wrap it up here. Oh, we'll do a good news, a bad news, maybe good news. Trump is talking about denuclearization. Let's watch this short clip. But also, backhandedly, Iran bad. Iran is bad, but not for the reasons why they're saying.
And that's going to be the next thing you'll be talking about is Iran. What's going to happen with Iran? And there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon. I think that I would have had a deal within 1 month after the rigged election of 2020. They were all set to make a deal. And then when I lost, they saw this person who's a stupid person, very stupid person. And they said, let's not make a deal. And they were right. He took the sanctions off. They became rich under Biden. They went from having no money to having $300 billion.
Probably true. Bob says Bibi's under no real threat. The greater aardvark and Masonic plans must continue. It's probably true. It's probably true. He also said, Gabbard has already said what's to become of Iran. Listen to this FTAR Trump. Oh, man. Okay, last story before we wrap up this broadcast on a Friday. I think we covered a lot of news, as much as we could. Trump cancels $400 million in funding to Columbia University over anti-Semitism. The Trump administration has canceled approximately $400 million in federal grants and contracts to Columbia University This decision stems from allegations that the university has not adequately addressed anti-Semitism on campus. They were doing protests there. Well, here's some protests. I think these are undermining the cause, honestly.
Encirclement!
You can see they're hemming them up at the protests now. And the university has been cut off from funding. The move has sparked discussions about the balance between combating hate speech and protecting free speech rights on university campuses. Yeah. All right, that's all we got. But stick around for the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars documentary. Let me go to the channels here quickly before I sign off. On this Friday, over to the Odyssey. Thank you, everyone, for tuning on the Odyssey. I see Bob, Barry, Huffman. Let's see what Huffman has to say. Quinine and tonic water if you're worried about the magic, the miracle. Yeah. Yeah. The principal ingredient in rat poison. Hey. All of your medical freedom fighters promote it. You know what I'm saying? So talk about playing both sides against the middle, as they say, on that issue. Yeah, quinine. You make your own quinine as well. It's just like fermented grapefruit, right? Fermented citrus. But yeah, you can find it in tonic water. And yeah, it's great to mix with your gin, right? All right. Thank you guys for tuning in on, yeah, I agree there with you, Huffman, about the old horse dewormer. Thank you guys for tuning in on Odyssey. Over to the Rumble. Who's on the Rumble? Quite a few people over there. Terry, I see in the chat. Again, Carrie, your stickers are in the mail today. I just put them in the mailbox before the show. You should be getting them early next week, hopefully, with the correct postage on them. Again, thank you for your subscription. We got Chloe, Denver, Gunther, Barry, of course. Did I say Barry already? Quite a chat going on there. Carrie. Preparing oyster chicken? Never had oyster chicken. Yeah, I only get a ham sandwich once a week. Telling you, man. I killed all the chickens. Can't even afford an egg. Can't even afford to eat a boiled egg. Quite a chat you guys got going on there. Thank you very much. Appreciate you tuning in and keeping that chat very lively. Who's that? Nana as well. Quite a chat that you guys have going on there. It's truly appreciated. See if I could pick out anything quickly. Yeah, they won't submit to justice. Yeah, that's I don't know. You guys got a great chat going back and forth there, though. Barry says you should see the actual sign on the front rail of my house. Send a picture, Barry. You got to prove that you're not a big Trudeau guy. Rumors on the interweb say you're a big Trudeau guy. Thank you guys for tuning in on Rumble and keeping that chat very lively. Over to the Rock Fin. We got Sean, Barry, Denver, Octo. John. John says, do you think any of the SpaceX is real? The landings of the rockets sure look CGI to me. It does. I agree with you there, John. I don't know. I guess you have to witness it in person to really know, right? That's the only way we would really know. Or have someone that you really trust report there in person that it actually happened. The video is so friggin' high definition of it, it does look fake. I agree with you. Hemp car. Check out the Lisa Johnson presentation, transhumanism stuff right from the government. Freaked and geeked. I will have to look that up. I don't know who Lisa Johnson is, but we do love our transhumanism right from the government, right? Scientific dictatorship, technocracy. We do love our trans mice, right, producer? We love our trans mice.
You're not trans spies, but okay.
We love our trans mice. This guy even that's on the thumbnail here of the Stand Up for Science rally today. The guy, here you go. Transgenic, not transgender. Close enough. Here you go. We do love our trans mice. There you go. I love trans mice. And then down there with the little asterisk, genetic.
I love my trans cat.
Gosh, it's just also idiocracy, isn't it? Thank you guys for tuning in on the Rock Fan. Appreciate it. Over to the BitChute. Nobody ever gets in the chat on the BitChute. I think it's a new feature. Maybe people don't even know. I don't know. I didn't know for a while. Thank you guys for tuning in on the BitChute, though. It's appreciated. Thank you for tuning in on X, on Facebook, and YouTube. Lively chat here in Young is mad at cities. He says F cities. Cities may, well, they're, as we continue to report here, they want you in the cities to put you in the smart city control grid, right? And so if they could ever fully implement that, forget about it. I caught one of those mice in my house. He was reading weird children. That's what Young said. One of these transgenic mice are doing weird stuff, man. Hey, thank you guys again for tuning in all this week. For tuning in tonight on Weaponized News Friday edition. I'll be back here Monday with Ruckus, hopefully. And I'm sure there'll be a whole lot of developments over the weekend. It looks like they're going to go full on genocide again. I mean, it didn't ever really stop, but they're saying, hey, roll in everything again into Gaza because this damn Hamas are there. And so we got to kill those terrorists, don't you know? So it's happening right now, actually, as I speak. So we'll have that to report on Monday, and I'm sure a lot of other developments over the weekend. Stand up for science, don't you ever forget, and rock your old Francis Collins folk music. That should keep you very happy. And scream that the scientific method is a conspiracy theory. and you're a science denier, screaming at your neighbors while you're wearing a mask, and that will certainly help the cause of science. So, yeah, we're going to close out now. As always, everybody do your own research, peace, love, and liberty. Speak out and take action. Have a great Friday evening and rest of your weekend. Here is Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, Operations Research Technical Manual, TWSW 7905.1 from stopthecrime.net. I was going to read a little bit more narrative. Well, here we go. Let's play it.
Recently, there's been this video going around on the net called USA Inc. Depopulation and You with Deborah Tavares. And I think she has this site, stopthecrime.net, or she refers to it anyway. And she talks about in this video a document called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. I came over here to read this document and found it quite interesting. So I'm going to go through the whole document here in this video. The original video I'll put links to, the USA Inc. Depopulation, and I want to thank Ashley Law for referring that video to me. It's very disturbing, and this document is very disturbing as well. So I will include links to this and to the actual video, and it takes a little while to get through. It's 44 pages long, but there's also a lot of technical pages in here that I'm just going to scroll past, and if you care to read them, help yourself, pause the video to read those technical parts of it. But thank you very much for listening, and hopefully you can get all the way through it. Forward. This manuscript was delivered to our offices by an unknown person. We did not steal the document, nor are we involved with any theft from the United States government, and we did not get the document by way of any dishonest methods. We feel that we are not endangering the national security by reproducing this document. Quite the contrary, it has been authenticated, and we feel that we are not only within our rights to publish it, but morally bound to do so. Regarding the training manual, you may have detected that we had to block out the marginal notes by the selectee at the CIA Training Center, but I can assure you that the manual is authentic and was printed for the purpose of introducing the selectee to the conspiracy. It has been authenticated by 4 different technical writers for military intelligence. One just recently retired who wants very much to have this manual distributed throughout the world, and one who is still employed as an electronics engineer by the federal government and has access to the entire series of training manuals. One was stationed in Hawaii and held the highest security clearance in the naval intelligence, and another who is now teaching at a university and has been working with the Central Intelligence Agency for a number of years and wants out before the axe falls on the conspirators. We believe that the entire world should know about this plan, so we distributed internationally 100 of these manuscripts to ask individuals at top-level positions their opinions. The consensus opinion was to distribute this to as many people as who wanted it, and to the end that they would not only understand that war had been declared against them, but would be able to properly identify the true enemy to humanity. Conspiracy theories are nothing new to history. Plots to kill Caesar and overthrow Rome abounded, for instance. However, it is seldom that concrete clues to such plots come to light and are generally known. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, an introduction programming manual, was uncovered quite by accident on July 7, 1986, when an employee of a Boeing aircraft company purchased a surplus IBM copier for scrap parts at a sale and discovered inside details of a plan hatched in the embryonic days of the Cold War, which called for control of the masses through manipulation of industry, peoples, pastimes, education, and political leanings. It called for a quiet revolution, putting brother against brother and diverting the public's attention from what is really going on. The document you are about to read is real. It is reprinted in its virgin form with diagrams as a touch of reality. Top Secret. Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars Operations Research Technical Manual TM-SW7905.1. Welcome aboard. This publication marks the 25th anniversary of the Third World War, called the Quiet War, being conducted using subjective biological warfare fought with silent weapons. This book contains an introductory description of this war, its strategies, and its weaponry. May 1979, number 74-1120. Security. It is patently impossible to discuss social engineering or the automation of a society, i.e. the engineering of a social automation system's silence weapons, on a national or worldwide scale without implying extensive objectives of social control and destruction of human life, i.e. slavery and genocide. This manual is in itself an analog declaration of intent. Such a writing must be secured from public scrutiny, otherwise it might be recognized as a technically formal declaration of domestic war. Furthermore, when any person or group of persons in a position of great power and without full knowledge and consent of the public uses such knowledge and methodologies for economic conquest, it must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between said person or group of persons and the public. The solution of today's problems requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid, with no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. You have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity and yet analyze and discuss your observations and conclusions with others of similar intellectual capacity without the loss of discretion or humility. Such virtues are exercised in your own best interest. Do not deviate from them. Historical introduction. Silent weapon technology has evolved from operational research, a strategic and tactical methodology developed under the military management in England during World War II. The original purpose of operations research was to study the strategic and tactical problems of air and land defense with the objective of effective use of limited military resources against foreign enemies, i.e. logistics. It was soon recognized by those in positions of power that the same methods might be useful for totally controlling a society, but better tools were necessary. Social engineering, the analysis and automation of a society, requires the correlation of great amounts of constantly changing economic information, or data. So a high-speed computerized data processing system was necessary, which could race ahead of the society and predict when society would arrive for capitulation. Relay computers were too slow, but the electronic computer invented in 1946 by J. Presper Eckert and John W. Malky filled the bill. The next breakthrough was the development of the simplex method of linear programming in 1947 by the mathematician George B. Dantzig. Then in 1948, the transistor, invented by J. Bardeen, W. H. Breton, and W. Shockley, promised great expansion of the computer field by reducing space and power requirements. With these three inventions under their direction, those in positions of power strongly suspected that it was possible for them to control the whole world with the push of a button. Immediately, the Rockefeller Foundation got in on the ground floor by making a 4-year grant to Harvard College, funding the Harvard Economic Research Project for the study of the structure of the American economy. 1 year later, in 1949, the United States Air Force joined in. In 1952, the grant period terminated, and a high-level meeting of the elite was held to determine the next phase of social operations research. The Harvard Project had been very fruitful, as is borne out by the publication of some of its results in 1953, suggesting the feasibility of economic social engineering. Studies in the Structure of the American Economy, copyright 1953 by Wassily Leontief, International Science Press, Inc., White Plains, New York. Engineered in the last half of the decade of the 1940s, the new quiet war machine stood, so to speak, in sparkling gold-plated hardware on the showroom floor by 1954. With the creation of the maser in 1954, the promise of unlocking unlimited sources of fusion atomic energy from the heavy hydrogen and seawater and the consequent availability of unlimited social power was a possibility only decades away. The combination was irresistible. The Quiet War was quietly declared by the international elite at a meeting held in 1954. Although the silent weapon system was nearly exposed 13 years later, the evolution of the new weapon system has never suffered any major setbacks. This volume marks the 25th anniversary of the beginning of the Quiet War. Already this domestic war has had as many victories on many fronts throughout the world. Political introduction. In 1954, it was well recognized by those in positions of authority that it was only a matter of time, only a few decades, before the general public would be able to grasp and upset the cradle of power. For the very elements on the new silent weapon technology were as accessible for a public utopia as they were for providing a private utopia. The issue of primary concern, that of dominance, revolved around the subject of energy sciences. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy, and social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems, mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science, and the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge, the end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue: who will be the beneficiary? In 1954, this was the issue of primary concern. Although the so-called moral issues were raised in view of the law of natural selection, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace, and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy, wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle and sophisticated in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. In conclusion, the objective of economic research as conducted by the magnates of capital, banking, and the industries of commodities or goods and services is the establishment of an economy which is totally predictable and manipulatable. In order to achieve a totally predictable economy, the low-class elements of society must be brought under total control. Example, they must be housebroken, trained, and assigned a yoke, a long-term social duty from a very early age, before they have an opportunity to question the propriety of the matter. In order to achieve such conformity, the lower-class family unit must be disintegrated by a process of increasing preoccupation of the parents and the establishment of government-operated daycare centers for the occupationally orphaned children. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, so that the mode of ignorance isolating the inferior class from the superior class is and remains incomprehensible to the inferior class. With such an initial handicap, even bright lower class individuals have little, if any, hope of extricating themselves from their assigned lot in this life. This form of slavery is essential to maintain some measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. Descriptive introduction of the silent weapon. Everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, but only in its own manner of functioning. It shoots situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction or explosion, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder from a computer instead of a gun, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, under the orders of a banking magnate instead of a military general. It makes no obvious explosive noises, causes no obvious physical or mental injuries, and does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life, yet it makes an unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with the daily social life. Example, unmistakable to a trained observer, that is, one who knows what to look for. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon. The public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, but that is because of the technical nature of the silent weapon. They cannot express their feelings in a rational way or handle the problem with intelligence. Therefore, they don't know how to cry for help and don't know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a silent weapon is applied gradually, the public adjusts or adapts to its presence and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychologically via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobility of the individuals of society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. Theoretical introduction. Give me control over a nation's currency and I care not who makes its laws. Mayor Amschel Rothschild, 1743 to 1812. Today's silent weapons technology is an outgrowth of a simple idea discovered, succinctly expressed, and effectively applied by the quoted Mr. Mayor Amschel Rothschild. Mr. Rothschild discovered the missing passive component of economic theory known as economic inductance. He, of course, did not think of his discovery in these 20th century terms, and to be sure, mathematical analysis had to wait for the Second Industrial Revolution. The rise of the theory of mechanics and electronics, and finally the invention of the electronic computer before it could be effectively applied in the control of world economy. General energy concepts. In the study of energy systems, there always appears three elementary concepts. These are potential energy, kinetic energy, and energy dissipation. And corresponding to these concepts, there are three idealized, essentially pure physical counterparts called passive components. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of potential energy is associated with a physical property called elasticity or stiffness and can be represented by a stretched spring. In electronic science, potential energy is stored in a capacitor instead of a spring. This property is called capacitance instead of elasticity or stiffness. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of kinetic energy is associated with a physical property called inertia or mass and can be represented by a mass or flywheel in motion. In electronic science, kinetic energy is stored in an inductor in a magnetic field instead of a mass. This property is called inductance instead of inertia. In the science of physical mechanics, the phenomenon of energy dissipation is associated with a physical property called friction or resistance and can be represented by a dashpot or other device which converts energy into heat. In electronic science, dissipation of energy is performed by an element called either a resistor or a conductor, the term resistor being the one generally used to describe a more ideal device, example wire, employed to convey electronic energy efficiently from one location to another. The property of a resistance or conductor is measured as either resistance or conductance reciprocals. In economics, these three energy concepts are associated with economic capacitance would equal capital, money, stock, inventory, investments in buildings and durables. Economic conductance would be goods, production flow coefficients. Economic inductance would be services, the influence of the population of industry on output. All of the mathematical theory developed in the study of one energy system, mechanics, electronics, can be immediately applied in the study of other energy systems. Mr. Rothschild's energy discovery. What Mr. Rothschild had discovered was the basic principle of power, influence, and control over people as applied to economics. That principle is, when you assume the appearance of power, people soon give it to you. Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency or deposit loan accounts had the required appearance of power that could be used to induce people, inductance with people corresponding to a magnetic field, into surrendering their real wealth in exchange for a promise of greater wealth instead of real compensation. They would put up real collateral in exchange for a loan of promissory notes. Mr. Rothschild found that he could issue more notes than he had backing for, so long as he had someone's stock of gold as a persuader to show his customers. Mr. Rothschild loaned his promissory notes to individual and governments. These would create overconfidence. Then he would make money scarce, tighten control of the system, and collect the collateral through the obligation of contracts. The cycle was then repeated. These pressures could be used to ignite a war. Then he would control the availability of currency to determine who would win the war. That government which agreed to give him control of its economic system got his support. Collection of debts was guaranteed by economic aid to the enemy of the debtor. The profit derived from this economic methodology made Mr. Rothschild all the more able to expand his wealth. He found that the public greed would allow currency to be to be printed by a government order beyond the limits of inflation of backing in precious metal or the production of goods and services. Apparent capital is paper inductor. In this structure, credit presented as a pure element called currency has the appearance of capital, but is in effect negative capital. Hence, it has the appearance of service, but is in fact indebtedness or debt. It is therefore an economic inductance instead of an economic capacitance, and if balanced in no other way, will be balanced by the negation of population, war, or genocide. The total goods and services represent real capital called the gross national product, and currency may be printed up to this level and still represent economic capacitance. But currency printed beyond this level is subtractive, represents the introduction of economic inductance, and constitutes notes of indebtedness. War is therefore the balancing of the system by killing the true creditors, the public, which we have taught to exchange true value for inflated currency, and falling back on whatever is left of the resources of nature and regeneration of those resources. Mr. Rothschild had discovered that currency gave him the power to rearrange the economic structure to his own advantage, to shift economic inductance to those economic positions which would encourage the greatest economic instability and oscillation. The final key to economic control had to wait until there was sufficient data and high-speed computing equipment to keep close watch on the economic oscillations created by the price shocking and excess paper energy credits, paper inductance, and inflation. Breakthrough. The aviation field provided the greatest evolution in economic engineering by way of mathematical theory of shock testing. In this process, a projectile is fired from an airframe on the ground, and the impulse of the recoil is monitored by vibration transducers connected to the airframe and wired to chart recorders. By studying the echoes or reflections of the recoil impulse in the airframe, it is possible to discover critical vibrations in the structure of the airframe, which either vibrations of the engine or alien vibrations of the wings or a combination of the two might reinforce, resulting in a resonant self-destruction of the airframe in flight as an aircraft. From the standpoint of engineering, this means that the strengths and weaknesses of the structure of the airframe in terms of vibrational energy can be discovered and manipulated. Applications in economics. To use this method or airframe shock testing in economic engineering, the prices of commodities are shocked and the public consumer reaction is monitored. The resulting echoes of the economic shock are interpreted theoretically by computers, and the psycho-economic structure of the economy is thus discovered. It is by this process that partial differential and difference matrices are discovered that define the family household and make possible its evaluation as an economic industry, dissipative consumer structure. Then the response of the household to future shocks can be predicted and manipulated, and society becomes a well-regulated animal with its reins under the control of a sophisticated computer-regulated social engineering bookkeeping system. Eventually, every individual element of the structure comes under computer control through a knowledge of personal preferences. Such knowledge, guaranteed by computer association of consumer preferences, UPC codes, zebra stripe pricing codes on packages with identified consumers, identified via association with the use of a credit card and later a permanent tattooed body number invisible under the normal ambient illumination. Summary. Economics is only a social extension of a natural energy system. It also has its three passive components. Because of the distribution of wealth and the lack of communication and lack of data, this field has been the last energy field for which a knowledge of these three passive components has been developed. Since energy is the key to all activity on the face of the earth, it follows that in order to attain a monopoly of energy, raw materials, goods, and services, and to establish a world system of slave labor, it is necessary to have a first-strike capability in the field of economics. In order to maintain our position, it is necessary that we have absolute first knowledge of the science of control over all economic factors and the first experience at engineering the world economy. In order to achieve such sovereignty, we must at least achieve this one end, that the public will not make either the logical or mathematical connection between economics and the other energy sciences, or learn to apply such knowledge. This is becoming increasingly difficult to control. because more and more businesses are making demands upon their computer programmers to create and apply mathematical models for the management of those businesses. It is only a matter of time before the new breed of private programmer economists will catch on to the far-reaching implications of the work begun at Harvard in 1948. The speed which they can communicate their warning to the public will largely depend upon how effective we have been at controlling the media, subverting education, and keeping the public distracted with matters of no real importance. The economic model. Economics as a social energy science has as a first objective the description of the complex way in which any given unit of resource is used to satisfy some economic want. Leontief matrix. The first objective, when it is extended to get the most product from the least or limited resources, comprises that objective of general military and industrial logistics known as operations research. See simplex method of linear programming. The Harvard Economic Research Project from 1948 was an extension of World War II operations research. Its purpose was to discover the science of controlling an economy, at first the American economy and then the world economy. It was felt that with sufficient mathematical foundation and data, it would be nearly as easy to predict and control the trend of an economy as to predict and control the trajectory of a projectile. Such has proven to be the case. Moreover, the economy has been transformed into a guided missile on target. The immediate aim of the Harvard project was to discover the economic structure, what forces change that structure, how the behavior of that structure can be predicted, and how it can be manipulated. What was needed was a well-organized knowledge of the mathematical structures and interrelationships of investment, production, distribution, and consumption. To make a short story of it all, it was discovered that an economy obeyed the same laws as electricity, and that all of the mathematical theory and practical and computer know-how developed for the electronic field could be directly applied in the study of economics. This discovery was not openly declared, and its more subtle implications were and are kept a close guarded secret. For example, that in an economic model, human life is measured in dollars, and that the electric spark generated when opening a switch connected to an active inductor is mathematically analogous to the initiation of war. The greatest hurdle which theoretical economists faced was the accurate description of the household as an industry. This is a challenge because consumer purchases are a matter of choice, which in turn is influenced by income, price, and other economic factors. This hurdle was cleared in an indirect and statistically approximate way by an application of shock testing to determine the current characteristics called current technical coefficients of household industry. Finally, because problems in theoretical electronics can be translated very easily into problems of theoretical electronics, and the solution translated back again, it follows that only a book of language translation and concept definition needed to be written for economics. The remainder could be gotten from standard works on mathematics and electronics. This makes the publication of books on advanced economics unnecessary and greatly simplifies project security. This section of the document presents many industrial diagrams, so I'm just going to scroll through these, and you can pause the video if there's anything that you care to read in this section. The social welfare program is nothing more than an open-ended credit balance system which creates a false capital industry to give non-productive people a roof over their heads and food in their stomachs. This can be useful, however, because the recipients become state property in return for the gift, a standing army for the elite. For he who pays the piper picks the tune. Those who get hooked on the economic drug must go to the elite for a fix. In this method of introducing large amounts of stabilizing capacitance is by borrowing on the future credit of the world. This is a fourth law of motion on set and consists of performing an action and leaving the system before the reflected reaction returns to the point of action, a delayed reaction. This means the means of surviving the reaction is by changing the system before the reaction can return. By this means, politicians become more popular in their own time and the public pays later. In fact, the measure of such a politician is the delay time. The same thing is achieved by a government by printing money beyond the limit of the gross national product, an economic process called inflation. This puts a large quantity of money into the hand of the public and maintains a balance against their greed, creates a false self-confidence in them, and for a while stays the wolf from the door. They must eventually resort to war to balance the account, because war ultimately is merely the act of destroying the creditor, and the politicians are the publicly hired hitmen that justify the act to keep the responsibility and blood off the public conscience. See section on consent factors and social economic structuring. If the people really cared about their fellow man, they would control their appetites, greed, procreation, etc., so that they would not have to operate on a credit or welfare social system which steals from the worker to satisfy the bum. Since most of the general public will not exercise restraint, there are only two alternatives to reduce the economic inductance of the system. Let the populace bludgeon each other to death in war, which will only result in a total destruction of the living earth. Take control of the world by the use of economic silent weapons in a form of quiet warfare, and reduce the economic inductance of the world to a safe level by a process of benevolent slavery and genocide. The later option has been taken as the obviously better option. At this point, it should be crystal clear to the reader why absolute secrecy about these silent weapons is necessary. The general public refuses to improve its own mentality and its faith in its fellow man. It has become a herd of proliferating barbarians and, so to speak, a blight upon the face of the earth. They do not care enough about economic science to learn why they have not been able to avoid war despite religious morality, and their religious or self-gratifying refusal to deal with earthly problems renders the solution of the earthly problem unreachable to them. It is left to those few who are truly willing to think and survive as the fittest to survive, to solve the problem for themselves as the few who really care. Otherwise, exposure of the silent weapon would destroy our only hope of preserving the seed of the future true humanity. Now the following is a bunch more technical information. If you're curious, just pause the video. I'm going to scroll through it fairly quickly. One method of evaluating the technical coefficients of the household industry depends upon shocking the prices of a commodity and noting the changes in the sales of all of the commodities. Economic shock testing. In recent times, the application of operations research to the study of public economy has been obvious for anyone who understands the principles of shock testing. In shock testing of an aircraft airframe, the recoil impulse of firing a gun mounted on that aircraft airframe causes shock waves in that structure, which tell aviation engineers the conditions under which some parts of the airplane or the whole airplane or its wings will start to vibrate or flutter like a guitar string, a flute reed, or a tuning fork and disintegrate or fall apart in flight. Economic engineers achieve the same result in studying the behavior of the economy and the consumer publicly by carefully selecting a staple commodity such as beef, coffee, gasoline, or sugar, and then causing a sudden change or shock in its price or availability, thus kicking everybody's budget and buying habits out of shape. They then observe the shock waves which result by monitoring the changes in advertising, prices, and sales of that and other commodities. The objective of such studies is to acquire the know-how to set the public economy into a predictable state of motion or change, even a controlled self-destructive state of motion which will convince the public that certain expert people should take control of the money system and reestablish security rather than liberty and justice for all. When the subject citizens are rendered unable to control their financial affairs, they of course become totally enslaved and a source of cheap labor. Not only the prices of commodities, but also the availability of labor can be used as the means of shock testing. Labor strikes deliver excellent tests. Shock to an economy, especially in the critical service areas of trucking and transportation, communication, public utilities, energy, water, garbage collection, etc. By shock testing, it is found that there is a direct relationship between the availability of money flowing in an economy and the real psychological outlook and response of masses of people dependent upon that availability. For example, there is a measurable quantitative relationship between the price of gasoline and the probability that a person would experience a headache, feel a need to watch a violent movie, smoke a cigarette, or go to a tavern for a mug of beer. It is most interesting that by observing and measuring the economic models by which the public tries to run from their problems and escape from reality, and by applying the mathematical theory of operations research, it is possible to program computers to predict the most probable combination of created events or shocks which will bring about a complete control and subjugation of the public through a subversion of the public economy by shaking the plum tree. Okay, we're going to scroll through some more of the technical data here, and once again, pause the video if you want to read any of it. And this is the result into which we substitute to get that set of conditions of prices of commodities, bad news on TV, etc., which will deliver a collapse of public morale ripe for takeover. Once the economic price and sales coefficients are determined, they may be translated into technical supply and demand coefficients. Shock testing of a given commodity is then repeated to get the time rate of change of these technical coefficients. Introduction to economic amplifiers. Economic amplifiers are the active components of economic engineering. The basic characteristics of any amplifier, mechanical, electrical, or economic, is that it receives an input control signal and delivers energy from an independent energy source to a specified output terminal in a predictable relationship to that input control signal. The simplest form of an economic amplifier is a device called advertising. If a person is spoken to by a TV advertiser as if he were 12 years old, then due to suggestibility, he will, with a certain probability, respond or react to that suggestion with the uncritical response of a 12-year-old, and will reach into his economic reservoir and deliver its energy to put that product on impulse when he passes it in the store. An economic amplifier may have several inputs and output. Its response might be instantaneous or delayed. Its circuit symbol might be a rotary switch if its options are exclusive, qualitative, go or no-go, or it might have its parametric input-output relationships specified by a matrix with internal energy sources represented. Whatever its form might be, its purpose is to govern the flow of energy from a source to an output sink in direct relationship to an input control signal. For this reason, it is called an active circuit element or component. Economic amplifiers fall into classes called strategies, and in comparison with electronic amplifiers, the specific internal functions of an economic amplifier are called logistical instead of electrical. Therefore, economic amplifiers not only deliver power gain, but also in effect are used to cause changes in the economic circuitry. In the design of an economic amplifier, we must have some idea of at least 5 functions, which are the available input signals, the desired output control objectives, the strategic objective, the available economic power sources, the logistical options. The process of defining and evaluating these factors and incorporating the economic amplifier into an economic system has been popularly called game theory. The design of an economic amplifier begins with a specification of the power level of the output, which can range from personal to national. The second condition is accuracy of response. Example, how accurately the output action is a function of the input commands. High gain combined with strong feedback helps to deliver the required precision. Most of the error will be the input data signal. Personal input data tends to be specified, while national input data tends to be statistical. A short list of inputs. Questions to be answered. What, where, why, when, how, and who. General sources of information. Telephone taps, analysis of garbage, surveillance, behavior of children in school, standard of living by, food, shelter, clothing, transportation, social contacts, telephone itemized record of calls, family, marriage certificates, birth certificates, etc., friends, associates, etc., memberships in organizations, political affiliation, the personal paper trail, personal buying habits, personal consumer preferences, checking accounts, credit card purchases, tagged credit card purchases, the credit card purchase of products bearing the UPC code, assets, checking accounts, savings accounts, real estate, business, automobile, safety deposit at the bank, stock market, liabilities, creditors, enemies, loans, government sources, welfare, Social Security, USDA, surplus food, doles, grants, subsidies, government sources via intimidation, Internal Revenue Service, OSHA, Census, etc., other government sources, surveillance of U.S. mail, habits, patterns, programming, strengths and weaknesses, activities, sports, hobbies, see legal, fear, anger, crime record, hospital records, drug sensitivities, reaction to pain, psychiatric records, fears, angers, disgust, adaptability, reactions to stimuli, violence, suggestibility or hypnosis, pain, pleasure, love, and sex, methods of coping of adaptability and behavior, consumption of alcohol, consumption of drugs, entertainment, religious factors influencing behavior, other methods of escaping from reality, payments, pay on time, payment of telephone bills, energy purchases, water purchases, repayment of loans, house payments, automobile payments, payments on credit cards, the political sensitivity, beliefs, contacts, positions, strengths, weaknesses, projects, activities, legal inputs, behavior control, excuses for investigation, search, arrest, or employment of force to modify behavior, court records, police records, driving record, reports made to police, insurance information, anti-establishment acquaintances, national input information, business sources via the IRS, prices of commodities, sales, investments in, stocks, inventory, production tools and machinery, buildings and improvements, the stock market, banks and credit bureaus, credit information, payment information, miscellaneous sources, polls and surveys, publications, telephone records, energy and utility purchases, and short list of outputs. Outputs create controlled situations, manipulation of the economy, hence society, control by control of compensation and income. sequence, allocates opportunities, destroys opportunities, controls the economic environment, controls the availability of raw materials, controls capital, controls bank rates, controls the inflation of the currency, controls the possession of property, controls industrial capacity, controls manufacturing, controls the availability of goods or commodities, controls the prices of commodities, controls services, the labor force, etc., controls payments to government officials, controls the legal functions, controls the personal data files, uncorrectable by the party slandered, controls advertising, controls media contact, controls material available for TV viewing, disengages attention from real issues, engages emotions, creates disorder, chaos, and insanity, controls design and more probing tax forms, controls surveillance, controls the storage of information, develops psychological analysis and profiles of individuals, controls legal functions, controls sociological factors, controls health options, preys on weakness, cripples strengths, leeches wealth and substance. A table of strategies. If you do this, you get this. Keep the public ignorant. Less public organization. Maintain access to control prices, points for feedback, required reaction to output sales. Create preoccupation, lowers defenses, attacks the family unit young, control of the education. Give less cash and more data, credit, and doles, more self-indulgent and more. Attack the privacy of the church, destroys faith in the sort of government. Social conformity, computer programming simplicity, minimize the tax program, protest, maximize economic data minimum, enforcement problems. Stabilize the consent, simplicity coefficients, tighten control of variables, simpler computer input data, greater predictability, establish boundary conditions, equations, problem simplicity, solutions of differential indifference, proper timing, less data shift and blurring, maximum control, minimum resistance to control, collapse of currency, destroy the faith of the American people in each other. Diversion, the primary strategy. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of the basic system principles on the one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. This is achieved by disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities, providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic systems, design, and economics, and discouraging technical creativity, engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, mental and emotional rape by way of constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially the TV and the newspaper, giving them what they desire in excess, junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need, rewriting history and law, subjecting the public to the deviant creation, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. These preclude their interest in and discovery of the silent weapons of social automation technology. The general rule is that there is a profit in confusion. The more confusion, the more profit. Therefore, the best approach is to create problems and then offer solutions. Diversion summary. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real issues, social issues, and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment. Keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. Work. Keep the public busy with no time to think, back on the farm with the other animals. Consent, the primary victory. A silent weapon system operates upon data obtained from a docile public by legal, but not always lawful force. Much information is made available to silent weapon system programmers through the Internal Revenue Service. See Studies in Structure of the American Economy for an IRS source list. This information consists of the enforced delivery of well-organized data contained in federal and tax state forms, collected, assembled, and submitted by slave labor provided by taxpayers and employers. Furthermore, the number of such forms submitted to the IRS is a useful indicator of public consent, an important factor in strategic decision-making. Other data sources are given in the short list of inputs. consent coefficients, numerical feedback indicating victory status, psychological basis. When the government is able to collect tax and seize private property without just compensation, it is an indication that the public is ripe for surrender and is consenting to enslavement and legal encroachment. A good and easily quantified indicator of harvest time is the number of public citizens who pay income tax despite an obvious lack of reciprocal or honest service from the government. Amplification energy sources. The next step in the process of designing an economic amplifier is discovering the energy sources. The energy source which support any primitive economic system are, of course, a supply of raw materials and the consent of the people to labor, and consequently assume a certain rank, position, level, or class in the social structure to provide labor at various levels in the pecking order. Each class, in guaranteeing its own level of income, controls the class immediately below it, hence preserves the class structure. This provides stability and security, but also government from the top. As time goes on and communication and education improve, the lower class elements of the social labor structure become knowledgeable and envious of the good things that the upper class members have. They also begin to attain a knowledge of energy systems and the ability to enforce their rise through the class structure. This threatens the sovereignty of the elite. If this rise of the lower class can be postponed long enough, the elite can achieve energy dominance, and labor by consent no longer will hold a position of an essential energy source. Until such energy dominance is absolutely established, the consent of people to labor and let others handle their affairs must be taken into consideration, since failure to do so could cause the people to interfere in the final transfer of energy sources to the control of the elite. It is essential to recognize that at this time, public consent is still an essential key to the release of energy in the process of economic amplification. Therefore, the consent as energy release mechanism will now be considered. Logistics. The successful application of a strategy requires a careful study of inputs-outputs, the strategy connecting the inputs and outputs, and the available energy sources to fuel the strategy. This study is called logistics. A logistical problem is studied at the elementary level first, and then levels of greater complexity are studied as a synthesis of elementary factors. This means that a given system is analyzed, i.e. broken down into subsystems, and these in turn are analyzed until by this process one arrives at the logistical atom, the individual. This is where the process of synthesis properly begins at the time of birth of the individual. The artificial womb. From the time a person leaves its mother's womb, its every effort is directed towards building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, to provide a shelter for the evolutionary process of growth and maturity, example survival, to provide security for freedom, and to provide defensive protection for offensive activity. This is equally true of both the general public and the elite. However, there is a definite difference in the way each of these classes go about the solution of problems. The political structure of a nation, dependency. The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetuate their own dependency relationship of childhood. Simply put, they want a human god to eliminate all risks from their life, pat them on the head and kiss their bruises, put a chicken on every dinner table, clothe their bodies, tuck them into bed at night, and tell them that everything will be all right when they wake up in the morning. This public demand is incredible, so the human god, the politician, meets incredibility with incredibility by promising the world and delivering nothing. So who is the bigger liar, the public or the godfather? This public behavior is surrender born of fear, laziness, and expediency. It is the basis of the welfare state as a strategic weapon useful against a disgusting public. Action, offense. Most people want to be able to subdue and or kill other human beings which disturb their daily lives, but they do not want to have to cope with the moral and religious issues which such an overt act on their part might raise. Therefore, they assign the dirty work to others, including their own children, so as to keep the blood off their hands. They rave about rave about the humane treatment of animals and then sit down to a delicious hamburger from a whitewashed slaughterhouse down the street and out of sight. But even more hypocritical, they pay taxes to finance a professional association of hitmen collectively called politicians and then complain about corruption in government. Responsibility. Again, most people want to be free to do things, to explore, etc., but they're afraid to fail. The fear of failure is manifested in irresponsibility, and especially in delegating those personal responsibilities to others where success is uncertain or carries possible or created liabilities, which the person is not prepared to accept. They want authority, root word author, but they will not accept responsibility or liability, so they hire politicians to face reality for them. Summary. The people hire the politicians so that the people can obtain security without managing it, obtain action without thinking about it, inflict theft, injury, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death, avoid responsibility for their own intentions, obtain the benefits of reality and science without exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either of these things. They give the politicians the power to create and manage a war machine, to provide for the survival of the nation or womb, prevent encroachment of anything upon the nation or womb, destroy the enemy who threatens the nation or womb, destroy those citizens of their country who do not conform for the sake of stability of the nation or womb. Politicians hold many quasi-military jobs, the lowest being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys and CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs, licensed, and the judges, who shout out orders and run the closed union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are industrialists. The presidential level of commander-in-chief is shared by the international bankers. The people know that they have created this farce and financed it with their own taxes, given consent, but they would rather knuckle under than be the hypocrite. Thus a nation becomes divided into two very distinct parts: a docile subnation, a great silent majority, and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, and leaches its substance until it grows strong enough to detach itself and then devour its parent. System analysis. In order to make meaningful computerized economic decisions about war, the primary economic flywheel, it is necessary to assign concrete logistical values to each element of the war structure, personal and material alike. This process begins with a clear and candid description of the subsystems of such a structure. The draft as a military service. Few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable or more effective than that of the socio-military institution known as the draft. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institution is to instill by intimidation in the young males of a society the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent. He is soon taught that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet can do in an instance. Thus a man trained in a religious environment for 18 years of his life can, by this instrument of the government, be broken down, be purged of his fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere months. Once that conviction is instilled, all else becomes easy to instill. Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who perpetually love him, can be induced to send him off to war for his death. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, nevertheless a coarse overview will be possible and can serve to reveal those factors which must be included in some numerical form in a computer analysis of social and war systems. We begin with a tentative definition of the draft. The draft, or selective service, is an institution of compulsory collective sacrifice and slavery devised by the middle-aged and elderly for the purpose of pressing the young into doing the public dirty work. It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of the elders by the youth less likely. Generational stabilizer. It is marketed and sold to the public under the label of patriotic national service. Once a candid economic definition of the draft is achieved, that definition is used to outline the boundaries of a structure called a human value system, which in turn is translated into the terms of game theory. The value of such a slave laborer is given the table of a human value, a table broken down into categories by intellect, experience, post-service, job demand, etc. Some of these categories are ordinary and can be tentatively evaluated in terms of the value of certain jobs for which a known fee exists. Some jobs are harder to value because they are unique to the demands of social subversion. For an extreme example, the value of a mother's instruction to her daughter, causing that daughter to put certain behavioral demands upon a future husband 10 or 15 years hence. Thus, by suppressing his resistance to a perversion of a government, making it easier for a banking cartel to buy the state of New York in, say, 20 years. Such a problem leans heavily upon the observations and data of wartime espionage and many types of psychological testing. But crude mathematical models, algorithms, can be devised, if not to predict, at least to predeterminate these events with maximum certainty. What does not exist by natural cooperation is thus enhanced by calculated compulsion. Human beings are machines, levers which may be grasped and turned, and there is little real difference between the automating of a society and automating a shoe factory. These derived values are variable. It is necessary to use a current table of human values for computer analysis. These values are given in true measures rather than US dollars, since the latter is unstable, being presently inflated beyond the production of national goods and services so as to give the economy a false kinetic energy, paper inductance. The silver value is stable, it being possible to buy the same amount with a gram of silver today as it could be bought in 1920. Human value measured in silver units changes slightly due to the change in production technology. Enforcement. Factor 1. As in every social system approach, stability is achieved only by understanding and accounting for human nature, action-reaction patterns. A failure to do so can be, and usually is, disastrous. As in other human social schemes, one form or another of intimidation or incentive is essential to the success of the draft. Physical principles of action and reaction must be applied to both internal and external subsystems. To secure the draft, individual brainwashing or programming in both the family unit and the peer group must be engaged and brought under control. Factor 2. Father. The man of the household must be housebroken to ensure that Junior will grow up with the right social training and attitudes. The advertising, media, etc. are engaged to see to it that that father-to-be is pussy-whipped before or by the time he is married. He is taught that either he conforms to the social notch cut out for him, or his sex life will be hobbled and his tender companionship will be zero. He is made to see that women demand security more than logical, principled, or honorable behavior. By the time his son must go to war, father, with jelly for a backbone, will slam a gun into Junior's hand before father will risk the censor of his peers, or make a hypocrite of himself by crossing the investment he has in his own personal opinion or self-esteem. Junior will go off to war, or father will be embarrassed, so Junior will go to war, the true purpose notwithstanding. Factor 3. Mother. The female element of human society is ruled by emotion first and logic second. In the battle between logic and imagination, imagination always wins. Fantasy prevails, maternal instinct dominates, so that the child comes first and the future comes second. A woman with a newborn baby is too starry-eyed to see a wealthy man's cannon fodder or a cheap source of slave labor. A woman must, however, be conditioned to accept the transition to reality when it comes, or sooner. As the transition becomes more difficult to manage, the family unit must be carefully disintegrated, and state-controlled public education and state-operated child care centers must become more common and legally enforced so as to begin the detachment of the child from the mother and father at an earlier age. Inoculation of behavioral drugs, Ritalin, can speed the transition for the child. Mandatory. Caution. A woman's impulsive anger can override her fear. An irate woman's power must never be underestimated, and her power over a pussy-whipped husband must likewise never be underestimated. It got a woman the vote in 1920. Factor 4. Junior. The emotional pressure for self-preservation during the time of war and the self-serving attitude of the common herd that have an option to avoid the battlefield, if Junior can be persuaded to go, is all the pressure finally necessary to propel Johnny off to war. Their quiet blackmailings of him are the threats. No sacrifice, no friends, no glory, no girlfriends. Factor 5. The sister. And what about Junior's sister? She is given all the good things of life by her father and taught to expect the same from her future husband regardless of the price. Factor 6. Cattle. Those who will not use their brains are no better off than those who have no brains. And so this mindless school of jellyfish, father, mother, son, and daughter, become useful beasts of burden or trainers of the same. This concludes what is available in this document. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and I would highly encourage you to visit www.stopthecrime.net. It's where this document came from, and I will include links below in the description. And thank you very much again for listening. And get this out to your friends and family. Tell them about stopthecrime.net. Show them the article. You can download